Let us pray. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that's within me, bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. Almighty God, we give you thanks for this special day, an opportunity to serve you and the people of this land, especially those in need. Bless all men and women, boys and girls across our nation. Remember our fellow citizens who are currently overseas. Give us all perseverance to press through discouragement and gratitude to acknowledge you in any success. So, Lord God, what we know not, teach us. What we have not, give us. What we are not, make us. Through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. Let's say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
This House is in session. Minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, 7th May 2024 to be deferred. Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that the aforesaid minutes be deferred.
The question is that the aforementioned minutes be deferred. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. The aforementioned minutes are hereby deferred.
Announcements by Your Honour the Speaker. Messages from Her Excellency the President, petitions, papers, government notices.
Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Speaker, I beg to give notice of a resolution that the House of Assembly adopts the report of the Joint Select Committee standing on social sector and the environment on the Child Protection Bill 2023 and the Child Justice Bill 2023.
Private members' notices, notices of questions, reports from select committees, first readings of bills, statements by ministers, congratulatory and/or obituary speeches, personal explanations, motions for leave of absence, oral replies to questions, notices of motion for the adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance, orders of the day.
Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the suspension of standing orders 6, 16, 18, 20, 42, subsection 5, 43, 44, and 28, subsection 5 for the remainder of the day's sitting.
Questions that the aforementioned standing orders be suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. The aforementioned standing orders are hereby suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I'm sure you are aware, today's debate is going to surround a very important report of the Joint Select Committee in relation to a report on the Child Protection Bill as well as the Child Justice Bill. bill. You may recall that the child protection deals with the care and protection of our children, and the child justice deals with reform of the criminal law applicable to children and the repeal of the Juvenile Offenders Act Cap 138 and the Reformatory and Industrial School Act Cap 169. These bills were read a second time back in May of 2023. The bills were then sent to the Joint Select Committee on Social Sector and the Environment. And today's report, which is before this House, has combined a report on both of the bills. Mr. Speaker, for the purpose of this morning's proceedings, what we would ask your leave is to allow us to be able to deal with each of the bills separately. So that I think the public and certainly all who have contributed to those bills have a better and fuller understanding of the nature of the bills and the contributions that have been made. And therefore, I would therefore beg to move that with your leave, that the report from the Joint Select Committee be considered first of all today in substance in relation to child protection. We will come back on Friday to continue debate, and then I believe we will come back next week to be able to consider the component of the child justice bill.
Honourable member, if I'm hearing you correct, is that you would therefore wish that the report as it stands be basically segmented and that the debate there will speak to each other. The question is that the report be segmented and that the debate today centers on the child protection bill. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Government business, sir. Order number 11, in the name of the Honourable Minister, People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, to move the passing of a resolution to adopt the report of the Joint Select Committee standing on social sector and the environment on the Child Protection and Child Justice Bill 2023.
Honourable member for St. Michael South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. Let me begin, sir, by thanking the members of the staff and the team in the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, particularly the staff at the Child Care Board and the membership of the board itself. I also want to thank the staff in my ministry, sir, who would have worked very hard to get us into this position. I also feel obligated, sir, to thank, particularly on this occasion, the members of the Joint Select Committee, sir, for the work, the stellar work that they would have done, sir, to put us in this position. It is my pleasure to again have an opportunity, sir, to lead this debate. This debate, sir, I believe is going to be one of the most important conversations that this country can have, sir. I do so recognizing that we are, in this moment, facing a very historic opportunity where we have given true meaning and true expression to our democracy by allowing all Barbadians to be allowed to participate in this process, even at this level, by allowing persons to write in, to come and sit in, sir, and give representation on these bills, the Child Protection Bill and the Child Justice Bill. And so I say now, without any sense of hubris, any sense of false pride, that this is a moment, sir, that Barbados should feel very, very proud of. That what occurred in the preparation of this bill, sir, does not occur in every parliament. And it is again a reflection of the way we have chosen to govern by allowing people to weigh into what we think are important matters. I should also say at the outset, sir, as well, that there are a number of social bills and bills on the environment that will perhaps find themselves before select committees, these standing committees, sir, because of the way we've chosen to govern, to allow at different points in the conversation persons to weigh in. I say so because some persons may wish to say that the government has chosen this path as a response to some criticism, not recognizing that this is, in fact, sir, the process, the value system, the structure by which we will choose to govern as we go forward. Sir, today bring this bill as a proud Barbadian. knowing that this bill will strengthen the framework, the legislative framework that we have as it relates to children, sir. I bring it, sir, satisfied that as a social scientist, that this bill, sir, speaks to a number of issues, sir, that we have been trying to address for a number of years, sir. While I taught as a lecturer at the university, these were the issues that we discussed. Hopeful that one day Barbados would put itself in a position where it has addressed the issues pertaining to child protection in a comprehensive way, sir. I also do it, sir, as a former manager of the Child Care Board. Recognizing that when I joined the board, sir, in 2002 as manager, immediately after you, sir, served as manager of administration and a distinguished social worker at the Child Care Board, sir, you took your former job. You would appreciate, sir, that these issues are issues, sir, that we were grappling with for decades. I bring this bill, sir, as a person who, in the Ministry of Social Transformation, as it then was a director of social policy. I also, as director of constituency empowerment under the Ministry of Social Care, as it then was under the former government, sir. These issues found themselves before constituency councils too. I do so, sir, lastly, having served at Global Affairs Canada with responsibility for the region, recognizing that the issues of children, sir, are not only located in Barbados, these very serious issues that we need to fix, but that they're located in other places, sir. And I say to you, sir, that in the OECS, including St. Lucia, Dominica, Grenada, and St. Vincent, and outside the OECS, in Jamaica and in Trinidad, these countries, sir, have sought to put in place stronger mechanisms, stronger legislation to be able to address issues pertaining to children. Barbados, as you know, sir, has been at the vanguard of the movement, sir, in a number of areas, but regrettably, as it relates to a lot of issues in the social services sector and the wider social sector, we have not kept pace. This bill, sir, is an improvement, sir, on the model given to us by the OECS, but is also, sir, an improvement in the large overall framework that now drives social protection, sir. I say without any fear or contradiction whatsoever that this bill, sir, will be in a better position to allow us to serve children, a better position to allow us to serve families, sir, and it will give more rights to parents than any other bill that speaks to child protection in this country as it currently stands. And I know, so, sir, that some, I recently, sir, I spoke in relation to some issues that we are seeing affecting men. And I want to say, sir, that as I look across this country, unless you are absolutely a blind man, you will see young men now walking their children to school. You see men on the highway carrying their babies, things that you never saw in the past. And you have to commend the young men of this country, sir, who are making greater effort these days to be in the lives of their children. So I want to commend all the young men of Barbados, sir. But sir, I won't speak to it today, but I spoke very recently and the newspaper carried an article sordidly of all the things that I did not say. An article on which I spoke to the history of Barbados, sir, and how the traditional relations of men visiting households, sir, how that has plagued us in relation to older men, sir. And I've seen the newspaper carry a story about, I say, men jumping from bed to bed. I never said it, and all these other things, sir. So I want to be very clear that I'm only saying today that I want to praise the young men of this country so that nobody can get it wrong in relation to how they're going about dealing with their children, sir. But I support this bill not only, sir, as a man, I support this bill as a father. I have 2 lovely young daughters, sir, and I would say 3, I helped raise a third. 3 lovely young daughters, sir, that I would want to believe that in a country where someone were to see it fit to attempt to take advantage of these young ladies, sir, mine or anybody else's, that we have a legal architecture, sir, that protects the children of this country, sir, and this bill would allow us to do just that. But I, sir, cannot say that this bill is a boast, and I believe that no member on our side will treat to this bill as a boast. It cannot be a boast when we are forced to have to come here and to bring it. because it says that there's still some in our society who are so depraved that they would wish, sir, to visit harm on a lot of our children. So at another time, perhaps, even if as I wrap up, I will share some of the horrors that I knew firsthand while I was a manager at the Child Care Board. And my colleagues, sir, on this side and the other side, can share some of their stories, sir, that they are familiar with as members of Parliament. And those of us who walk communities, sir, we will know that there's still too many cases where children are being taken advantage of. Sir, I cannot say that this bill is a boast, but I see this bill as a barrier. It would allow us, sir, to block a number of harms that are coming and being visited upon our children, sir. Make no mistake, we have a lot of work to do in this country. And you have to appreciate, sir, that this bill will not stand alone, sir. There's a lot of things happening across the various ministries. I'm sure my colleagues will speak to them when they speak. That would put us in a better position to be able to serve children in this country, sir. But I also see this bill as a bridge between a time that has gone long past, sir, and a future that is to come. In many ways, the bill is a baton passed on to me by those who have tried, sir, in their time to bring proper legislation to address the ills being visited on children, sir, in this country, to put in place a framework not only to protect, but to empower children. I, sir, I'm only here temporarily, sir. Someone will come after me as someone went before me. And I believe, sir, we said it before, government must be a continuum. There have been many attempts over time by various governments, this side and the next, sir, to put in place systems to protect children. And this bill, sir, is the final, I believe, hopefully, manifestation of a lot of these efforts, sir. It is a base. This bill is a base for the future, sir, that I hope we can build for our children. One that allows parents to weigh in ways that the current legislation does not allow. It is a base, sir, that involves the community, sir, in a way that the current legislation does not allow. Sir, it recognizes that we cannot do this alone, sir. Make no mistake, we cannot come here and bring a legislation that will protect all children all the time. That is why we have to be busy doing work in youth affairs and sports and education, in health, across the various sectors, sir. That is why we have to ensure, sir, that through our collective efforts, we bring improvements to the lives of children, sir. And I am satisfied, sir, that when I look at the overall work of the ministry and this government, sir, we are doing a good thing. But, sir, let me set the context for this bill. Today, I want to set the context, sir. Why are we here? I will share the content, what is in the bill, sir. Some of it I've already shared, but I believe, sir, that Barbadians might have forgotten, and I feel it is my duty to remind them. I will also share, sir, the course that we took through the Joint Select Committee, the changes as a consequence of that course, and then, sir, we'll conclude by locating this conversation in the wider developments that we are doing in the ministry, sir, to be able to bring true meaningful transformation to the social services sector of Barbados, sir. Because I don't want anyone to believe that this is some kind of hodgepodge, get up one morning trying a thing. Sir, this is a concerted effort based in science, sir, recognizing the experiences of those who came before me, all of them, sir. Visiting ourselves, sir, upon a future, sir, that can envision a world where our children are a lot safer than they currently are. So, sir, within the context of this bill, sir, let us begin to explore why it is that we are here, sir. The Child Protection Bill that we first brought to Parliament in 2023, sir, sought to make the legislation a lot more modern. And of course, sir, it is our duty to ensure that our legislation is modern. We located that bill, sir, in the Convention of the Rights of the Child, sir, and I feel like I have to explain this because somewhere along the line, there is now a movement that seeks to taint the convention in everything negative. Sir, there are 54 articles in the convention. The convention is available online for any Barbadian to go online and to search and to read it for themselves. Article by article. I challenge anyone to show me a single article in the convention that would be injurious to children, injurious to parents, sir. 54 articles, sir, in the convention, sir, that allows us, sir, I think at the time when our forefathers were looking onto this bill, sir, and thinking about the way they should go forward, they saw it as a sign in the way they should go, but not necessarily as the signpost, sir. We chose our own direction. We took heed of what the bill said, sir, but make no mistake about it, sir, this bill is a Barbadian bill for Barbadian realities, point blank. And it addresses, sir, a number of concerns, sir, that would allow us to be able to say to Barbados that we are protecting our children, well, because our values and the values espoused in the convention align, but not for any other reason. There is no UN agency that is dictating any social policy to Barbados. And that what you see, sir, is a Barbadian bill. I would also go as far, sir, as to explain, sir, how these things are changed. Because people would want to say that all of a sudden, no, you could change the Convention on the Rights of the Child and that Barbados is duty-bound by any changes made to the Convention. Sir, firstly, if there's going to be a change to the Convention, it has to be that a country, sir, would have to state the amendment that they want, sir, and have 1/3 of the persons agree. Before that could then be taken to a vote to the wider committee. Barbados can say at that point, we want nothing to do with that amendment. We are not bound. If, sir, the amendment still goes before the conference of parties, sir, before the wider body, it then takes 2/3 of a majority of that conference to say we agree with this amendment. Barbados can at that point say, I want nothing to do with that amendment. Even then, if it is passed, sir, we can issue a reservation and say we want nothing to do with that amendment, and Barbados is not bound by any future changes in any convention. And what you've heard said, sir, by others who I believe should know better, has no truth in it. The government of Barbados, sir, is not tying its hands to any evil, seen or unseen. But we are satisfied, as was our forefathers in the late 80s and the early 90s, that there is no harm in the current Convention on the Rights of the Child, sir. And I encourage Barbadians to take a read of the convention, sir. We spent a lot of time, sir, in 2007. We did some work. 2013, I know there was a review of the Child Care Board. In 2014, the reviews of the laws relating to children, sir. Both administrations, at different points, making efforts, sir, to change the legislation. There was the white paper on laws related to children, women, and their families in 2015. The submission to the Cabinet Committee on Social Policy, the Cabinet Subcommittee on Social Policy, sir, in 2017, in relation to the laws related to children, women, and families, sir. This effort, sir, is not an effort located only in this Barbados Labour Party government. This is a conversation that has been going on now for decades. And this government has seen it fit, sir, because we signed and ratified the convention in 1990, to do what we said we were going to do when we ratified the convention. But because the realities of Barbados demand, that our values demand, that our beliefs demand, that we do so, sir, to put ourselves in a better position to serve the children of this country. In 2021, sir, when the Cabinet determined that it wanted to have modern child protection legislation, sir, we did so not on a folly. If you consider all that I have just said, we did not just, sir, get up like wild people and decide that we're going to do this. This is as a result of serious thought. And the experience, sir, of governments before us, sir, this government and those who I believe will come, sir. But I want to say to the Parliament this morning, sir, that we were duty-bound so to do. Sir, let me explain. There are current challenges in the existing legislation. There are deficits, sir, that are very clear to me, sir, that will be clear to you. Well, they're clear to you already, but they will become clear to all of Barbados, sir. The legislation that governs this country, the legislation that governs this country as it relates to children is extremely old. Sir, the Child Care Board Act, Cap 381, is 1983. There was some work done, sir, on the Supreme Court of Judicature, which also governs this bill, not directly on children, but it's 2008, sir. Sir, the Protection of Children Act is 1990. That bill is repealed. That spoke primarily to issues with the cell phones and so on. But, sir, the Young Persons Protection Act is 1918. 1918. 1918. When this was the legislation of the land, sir, there's nobody, I believe, maybe one, in this country who is alive now, that was alive when we were discussing this legislation. Sir, the Young Persons Protection Act is 1918. Are we to be governed by legislation that is 100 years old, that does not envision the realities of a modern Barbados, sir? But, sir, the Prevention of Cruelty to Children Act, sir, you heard the name? The Prevention of Cruelty to Children Act, sir, is 1904, sir. It is a 1904 piece of legislation. That means in 1895, men were gathered around, men, no women, were gathered around a table trying to make legislation that we know 120 years would wish to say governs Barbados. Sir, in 1895, I would also submit to this parliament, sir, that people who look like you or me, I guarantee we're not seated around that table. Governing, sir, for a time suited for them. We need now to make legislation, sir, that is suitable for us, sir. The legislation that deals with children in this country is way too old. This bill corrects that, sir. I must also say to you, sir, as we look at the legislation, sir, there's a patchwork of legislation. You cannot pick up as a child protection officer one bill and get your guidance. You have to turn your attention to the bills that I just called, sir. You have to go from here, there, and yonder to try to get an understanding as to how you should approach the legislation, sir. You ask anybody who works in child care, ask any of the child care officers, ask any social worker who has to deal with children, sir, as a lawyer. Ask any of the person who goes before the court. And to see that you're dealing with more than one piece of legislation, sir, to be able to get an understanding as to what should be. Sir, the Prevention of Cruelty to Children Act, sir, the Child Care Board Act, and the Supreme Court bill, sir, the Judicature bill, allow the board to remove a child from an abusive house, and either temporarily house that child under kinship, foster care, or residential facility. So currently, in the current legislation, because again, sir, I heard it said that we are now seeking to remove people's children, but the current legislation allows that. The current legislation allows that. So why would I have to come unless I am a madman? And I'm not a madman. To come to change legislation, sir, to do what I can already do. But if you look, as you will see when I go through the legislation that we are presenting, sir, it gives us a whole lot of options. I almost say a hell of a lot of options. It gives us, sir, a whole lot of options that would allow us, sir, to treat the children, sir. So it is not that anybody is trying to come now and pick up people's children, sir. The Child Care Board already has the authority. Currently, sir, I am told there are about 93 children who are already at the Child Care Board, being taken care of in a great way, sir. I work there at the Child Care Board, sir, and the children at the Child Care Board are treated well. I commend the aunties, I commend the house parents, the general workers, sir. I commend the people of this country, sir, who at Christmas make sure they send lots of things to the child care board. I was there. You were there. And we know, sir, that the children in the child care board are treated well, sir. I am not saying that all is perfect, but I know for the most part, the children in care are treated well, sir. But, sir, this lack of legislation, this lack of one piece of legislation is a problem. And what we are proposing to do, sir, allows us to address that problem, sir. One cohesive piece of legislation, sir, that will take this country forward. Sir, as you also know, sir, that there has to be now in most modern pieces of legislation guiding principles. What is guiding the legislation, sir? And we believe, sir, that the scattered and outdated nature of the current legislation does not offer that. What are the principles, sir, that allow us, sir, to move forward? And do these principles align with our values, sir? And I will go through some of them, sir. And you can judge, the public can judge for themselves if the guiding principles that we speak of are not aligned with their values. And if this government, sir, is pulling some move, as the young people say, a sleight of hand, sir, a trick. Sir, the first one, sir, speaks to the narrow grounds for intervention currently, sir, in the existing legislation, sir. This is so very, very important, sir. I want to say this very clearly and slowly. The Prevention of Cruelty to Children Act, sir, only contemplates intervention where a parent or a guardian has committed a criminal offense. Very narrow. The Child Care Board Act, on the other hand, permits intervention only where the Child Care Board has the agreement of the parent for action. You know, there are many times where you're not going to get that agreement. Because the other thing, sir, I heard coming out of this conversation was that we are trying to take away rights of parents. We want the parents to sign on to everything before the Child Care Board can act, sir. You know, and I know, and most people know, the average Barbadian knows, sir, that oftentimes where a child is being abused, it is a parent, it is a step-parent, a stepfather, a stepmother, a guardian, somebody that the parent knows, sir. The reality is, sir, that the uneven distribution of powers and resources in a household often result in mothers sometimes keeping quiet so as to be able to get through the economic realities of their own under circumstances, sir. But sometimes they know. So this idea that we are seeking to keep parents out of the affairs of their children is a nonsense. Because this bill, sir, has in it, sir, the most efforts to incorporate the opinions of the parents than any other legislation that I have seen, sir. But, sir, the final one, sir, because the Supreme Court Adjudicature, sir, and the Child Care Board Act, sir, talks about wardship proceedings to permanently remove the child. So either the parent is a criminal, either you had the agreement, or you're permanently removing the child, sir. These are very narrow grounds for intervention. I dare any Barbadian to tell me that these grounds, sir, do not require expansion. For us to have a much more wholesome conversation about child protection, sir, this is too restrictive. Sir, we also sought, because, you know, sir, we are people of practical enterprise. The role of the board and the role of the director of the board in the current legislation is unclear. You might see the board, you don't know if they mean the board of management or the board itself. We sought to separate that, sir. And that is important, sir, because people have to go to work every day, sir, certain about what they can and cannot do. In fact, in every conversation with the union, sir, you would hear, sir, the union, especially now as we seek to amalgamate. What is the separation between the board and what is the separation between the management? We intend to do that. Make the responsibilities for the director clear. So nobody can say a minister is giving direction, sir. The bill says you can only give on policy. Make it very clear so that the professionals in the organization, sir, in the Child Protection Authority would have the freedom to do what it is that they have the training, the competency, and the qualifications so to do, sir. Sir, there was also a lack of clear guidance on the procedures to be followed when the initial to final stages of a child protection matter is occurring, sir. We settled that in this bill. We said, sir, that children deserve legal representation. Some have said that that is a step too far, that a child should not be allowed legal representation, sir. But we can say that a child has the cognitive capacity, sir, to commit a crime at 12. But they don't have the capacity to inform their own lawyer, at least to give an opinion, sir, to be heard. Sir, and I don't think any modern lawyer is going to argue against it, really, that the children, sir, have a right to legal representation. And there were conversations held with various international agencies, sir, that sought to put Barbados in the position, sir, where we corrected this, so that children could be heard, sir. Again, sir, at every point in this legislation, sir, we have sought to give meaningful expression to the concept of participatory democracy. Allow the children to have a say, sir. And you know, sir, as a social worker, there are ways. You've seen it on TV sometimes, those who are not in the field, people playing with dolls, did the person touch you? There are ways, sir, that social workers are able to get information from children. There are ways, sir, that lawyers might be able to get information from children, sir. You all are good at the job that you do. And, sir, I recognize, sir, that by putting this into the legislation, we are doing what is right for the children. This is international best practice, yes. But it is also what is right for the children. It is also what is right for the country. And believe it or not, sir, many men, many women will be exonerated, sir, on the basis of what the child says. Because there's sometimes where you have a situation where one parent is saying he said, she said, and then the child might come and say, that, sir, is not the case. We want to be able to have representation for children, sir. And, sir, this inadequate range of interventions I spoke of, sir, to me troubles me. Because if you have an inadequate range of interventions, sir, it means that the Child Care Board will be duty-bound to do something, but find it difficult so to do. You will see, sir, on social media, people asking why the Child Care Board didn't do this. Why the Child Care Board did not do that, sir. But there's a very narrow range, sir. In many cases, sir, why the Child Care Board ain't going to pick up the child? Where it is a situation where, sir, it is better if the person, the parent, and the child, sir, could be worked with together, as the current legislation allows us now to do. The existing legislation, sir, doesn't speak to it. Social workers have done it. The current legislation doesn't speak to it, sir. I believe, sir, this bill also settles the issue of what the age of a child. Sir, we've had different pieces of legislation that speak to different things, sir. In this bill, sir, we define a child at 18 years old, sir. And, sir, consequently, there is a likelihood, sir, because you have different age ranges, sir, that you might have some age discrimination, sir. We need to settle it, sir. We say 18 for the purposes of this legislation, sir. Of course, there is still the issue that has to be settled about when a child is able at 16 years old to engage in behavior, sir. That also has to be discussed at some point in time. It is not, however, in this bill. Again, I saw people talking about that, sir. This bill does this bill does that. I got a letter, someone sent me a handwritten letter. I got about 3 or 4 during the course of the last set of presentations that I did on child protection, warning me a number of times. We're warning you, Mr. Humphrey, do not tread on these things, sir. There are some things, sir, and I say this, there are some things that I will never agree to. My conscience would never allow me to agree to those things. But there is nothing in this bill, sir, that speaks to anything, sir, that offers injury to any child in Barbados. Nothing. My conscience, sir, is extremely clear when it comes to this bill, sir. The other point, sir, that I think is also important, sir, as I get to the closing of the context, sir, is the lack of mandatory reporting. Now, sir, this mandatory reporting has become a piece of the conversation that we have been having. Sir, where a person who, by virtue of the work that they're doing, is made aware that a child is being abused, sir, we call them duty bearers. That person has a responsibility to say that they are aware. And we would allow, sir, it would allow, sir, for those persons, sir, to come forward and to say that they know teachers teachers, sir, parents who know, sir. The lack of mandatory reporting, sir, is something that we had to be able to address. And you will see when they go through the clauses of the bill that we've addressed mandatory reporting within the legislation, sir. But at the end of the day, sir, this is a child protection bill. It is a child protection bill, sir. And one of the principles, sir, is the paramountcy of the child, the rights of the child. You ask me on any given day, sir, who am I trying to protect, sir? I protect the children. You go downtown, you go in Swan Street, Broad Street. You go Spikestown by my honourable friend from St. Peter. You ask anybody in any of the towns in Barbados, in Oisins, by the honourable leader of the opposition, any place. When it comes to children, sir, Barbadians take things a little bit differently. You could do what you want, say what you want, but when it comes to children, Barbadians take things very differently. And people have said that the government is attempting to do all kinds of things, sir. I've never heard this government say anything that could cause injury. I've never heard the government even associate itself with any of these movements, sir, in relation to what is happening with gender across the world. Adults, we've said it, adults can do what they want. If you're an adult, you can do what you want. But no child in Barbados is allowed to do those things, sir. And that is the policy of this government, sir. But the Child Protection Bill, sir, helps us to overcome a number of these issues. So what are the key principles, sir? The best interest of the child is paramount. The best interest of the child is paramount. Now, I had to explain what is best interest. How does the government determine what is the best interest of the child? Not that best interest isn't a concept that has been around for a long time. Not that best interest isn't also mentioned in the existing legislation. Exactly, it's self-explanatory. It is in the existing legislation. And all of a sudden, what do you mean by best interest? But you weren't asking it of the other pieces of legislation? The best interest of the child, sir. What is in the best interest of the child? The best interest of the child is paramount, sir. And sir, this bill says that as it's embodied, sir, in the CRC, and I've already said there's no harm in that convention, sir. We believe that the best interest of the child should take interest over the interest of the adult. Because we have a responsibility as the state to protect children. So the best interest of the child is paramount, sir. The other point, sir, is that the least restrictive or intrusive intervention is to be utilized. The least restrictive or intrusive intervention. As I told you before, sir, the current legislation only allows intervention in very limited terms. So what we are saying is, if you have a situation, before you can engage in removing a child from a household or any of those things, you have to make sure that you go to the other opportunities that are available to you. Use the other tools that are within your resource set before you can even think of removing a child from a household. The bill recognizes that the family is the primary unit. And I have heard, sir, some people say that this bill attempts to destroy the family. You know, there are more references to family in this bill. Building the family, keeping the family together. Those things, sir, than you will see in any other legislation. In fact, I don't think the word family is mentioned once in the other pieces of legislation, sir. And I do not know how it has now become cool and in vogue for people to say that the government is trying to destroy families, when this bill does everything first and foremost to keep families together. Everything. From the beginning to the end, sir. Sir, it is also very important, sir, that as we utilize the least intrusive intervention, as I mentioned in section 4, sir, that we work all through the process with the family, talking to the parents where possible, making sure that the community is brought on board, that there's a community of support for the children. So I went through this bill so many times. So many times. With the board, with the permanent secretary, with the staff, with the CPC, sir. And as you will see, sir, when we go to the discussions that we had at the Joint Select Committee, there were very few issues that were raised that were based on the substance of the bill, sir. But, sir, the other principle is the participatory role of the child, sir. We've already explained what that is, and I think is important, sir. So what are the benefits of this bill? Why am I here bringing this bill in this year, 2024? Sir, as I said, if you look at what exists, sir, the Child Care Board is oftentimes not able to bring cases. We believe, sir, with this legislation, the Child Care Board, the Child Protection Authority, will be better positioned, sir, to bring cases. Sir, the draft bill offers necessary guidance on the appropriate steps. So I want to read this out, sir. Additional procedural requirements such as the development and production to the court of social inquiry reports, as well as comprehensive care and permanency plans, sir, that would allow us, sir, to be able to better service the children are now captured in this legislation. You have to tell the court, sir, your permanency plans. You have to give a social inquiry report. Sir, the bill goes on further to say where you are investigating somebody, in the cases where it does not harm the child, you are duty bound to inform the parent of the outcomes of that report, sir. You are now going to be required to discuss it with the parents if it is that wouldn't cause harm to the children, because as I said, there are obvious cases where that could cause harm to the child. But the bill contemplates that kind of intervention. So that you are saying for the first time, the most consultation and conversation with parents, with children, with the community, sir, as we build out this bill, sir. It's a child rights-based approach. And why is that important, sir? Because children's rights are important. I believe, sir, that many people, sir, who found some offense, probably, sir, were not aware that this bill is located in a child rights-based approach. And, sir, it is important that we continue to tell Barbadians that at the end of the day, the rights of the child are important. You know, when we were young, the way we were raised, sir, the times have changed, you know. When we were raised and you had a conversation with your mother or your father and you looked at them funny, you get a hard slap, a hard lash. We call that parenting. When we were young, there was no, let me get down on my knees to your level, eye to eye, and explain to you why you can't get that cake. It was like, you better stop crying or I can give you something to cry for. When we were young. And sir, there are some things, sir, in any progressive society, sir, the process of adaptation is such, sir, that there's some things that you take from your history, you hold on to, but there's some things, sir, in the process of adaptation that you have to let go. Any species, sir, that has been able to survive over time has done so because it has been able to adapt. The process of adaptation, not no radical, foreign-imposed adaptation, but an adaptation based on the environment, sir, that allowed the species to honor in its DNA the things that would allow it to extend life and to give up those things that no longer profited it, sir. If we were to have an exploration in the bottom of the ocean, you will see all kinds of things that have adapted and have lived. Adaptation, sir. We teach in parenting, sir, that you don't have to be the child for everything. As a young man, one day, sir, walking just outside this parliament, never thinking I'd have the opportunity to be in it, talking about this thing, I saw a lady just outside this parliament where the new wonderful monument to the family is. A monument to the family is, sir. And there was a woman walking, a young child. I can't remember if it was a boy or a girl. I think it was a young boy, though. And she was hustling. She was obviously late, and the child couldn't keep up. And that lady came back, and the slap that she gave that child in its back, as hard as she possibly could muster in her anger. You want me to be late? Was her question. To this child who, on any given day, could not keep up, sir. There are some things that we have to give up, sir. And I cannot tell Barbadians, sir, I would be a liar to them and to myself if I said to Barbadians that all that we did in the past that we considered to be good raising the children was good. Many of us, sir, don't know it, but many children in Barbados were beaten till they were bruised. That's abuse. Many of us. There are new tools that we understand, sir, to be utilized in raising children. This bill does not say corporal punishment is banned. But we obviously say, sir, we encourage parents, sir, to utilize a little mercy. Talk to the child. Just as this bill goes through a number of things before we go to those more intrusive interventions, work with your child. Teachers over time, sir, have learned new tools, new skills, sir. The teachers that I remember, the ones that you remember, the ones that most remember, the ones that I'm sure the chairman of the Child Care Board is remembered as a teacher, sir. The ones that remember us don't remember the way they beat, well, they may. The ones that beat us to a pulp, they may remember them in anger. But the ones they remember softly and tenderly with love are the ones, sir, that got down to their level. Try to explain certain things to them, sir, and to work with the children. We have to work with our children, sir. Hurting people will hurt people. You hurt your children. It's often said that children who are abused go on to abuse others. Go on to abuse their children, sir. We have to break that cycle, sir. The Child Care Board, sir, has a number of methodologies, sir, but when you go to court, when you look at the orders that the court could potentially give, sir, there were too few. And, sir, we now contemplate new orders, sir, as you will see when they go through the orders, sir. And when the Honourable Member for Christchurch East brings his bill, sir, as part of this report, sir, you will see that there is a nexus between the Child Protection Bill and the Child Justice Bill, sir. I've said before, we have not stumbled to this point. We have gotten here, sir, by careful consideration, so that the nexus between this bill and the Child Justice Bill, sir, allows us to make interventions that will protect our children, sir, in a way that is healthy and a way that is wholesome, sir. What is the nexus between the bills, sir? Sir, you might remember, sir, that in the current legislation, sir, that which exists, sir, there used to be a charge of wandering. It was a criminal offense. And most children, sir, would be arrested, sir, I said before, as a young boy growing up in the Pine, when a mother felt that her child, her female child, had become too difficult for her to control or to stay home when the evenings come. Not that the child is a bad person, you know. But I would hear oftentimes mothers saying, you better try and behave or I can put you in Somerville. That is something that I heard from myself. You better try and behave or I can send you up Somerville. Or you're going doors. If it is that they feel that the child now is talking to a young man, may not even be doing anything. You better behave or I can send you to Somerville. And sir, many children that would have left their households, sir, would have left their households because they were running not to something, but they left because they were running away from something. Some ill in their household, but the laws didn't consider that. Police would be charged, sir, to go and pick up people's children, sir, as was the law. And take them to Dodge and take them to Somerville, sir. And we said, sir, that we strike that offense now from the book, sir. And in its place, sir, because there's some children, sir, who need intervention. And the bill contemplates a secure treatment facility, sir, in some cases, sir, where those children who probably would have fallen under the old offense of wandering, sir, would now be treated too, sir, as people who need children, who need care and attention, sir. The Child Care Board, during the course of this year's estimates at the end of the exercise, the government allocated a significant sum of resources to begin the process of renovations or the purchase of a building or something, sir, to create that facility. I have told the board, the permanent secretary, they know that we have to begin, sir, the work on that facility to allow us, sir, to protect children, sir. A secure treatment facility is not a criminal place. You don't go there as a criminal. You go there as a young person who is in need of help. And in that facility, sir, the government of Barbados, because, you know, sir, I want people to understand what this government is doing for children, even within the context of this bill. The Minister of Education will speak about the number of things I know she's doing. The Minister of Youth, the Minister of Labor, the Minister of Innovation. I mean, when I look across the ministry, sir, there's so much things happening for children, sir. But this bill, when you go to that secure treatment facility, I remember a conversation I had with the chair and then with the deputy chair in relation to the resources that were needed at the Child Care Board. Because a number of the children now need additional support. And I'm pleased to say, sir, that this government, sir, has given the Child Care Board the resources to hire the persons that they need to treat to the children as people, as human beings, sir. A lot of people are talking, but they didn't do it. We give them the facility, we give them the staff to begin the process, sir. I suspect as we build out, the Child Care Board is likely to need more staff in relation to those specialized skills. The government is committed, sir, to dealing with this situation holistically. But nobody else did it. I'm saying that to say, sir, that when you hear the criticisms, you would ask yourself, but what did you do? Nobody else did it, sir. And it is a necessary intervention, sir. So we dealt with those children, sir, in a way, sir, that allows them now to be able to function, sir. So that those children who would have been under those refractory status offenses, sir, are dealt with by the board. And children, sir, who might create an offense, sir, under 12, who previously, sir, the law didn't speak to them really. Now, sir, they have a place where they could go, sir, they commit an offense that might have been considered a criminal offense, if it could have been. They come to the board, sir, the child protection facility, sir, the secure treatment facility, and they get the necessary attention that they need, sir. I'm sure the Honourable Minister with responsibility for child justice, sir, the MP for Christchurch East, when he speaks, will go through that in a lot more detail, sir. But there was a need for that facility, sir. And we have created that facility, sir, in this bill. I know that that will make a lot of difference to the children. So whenever I go to Child Care Board and I visit some of those children, sir, and people talk, so I feel Barbadians have to come to face with the harsh reality. There are a number of children in Child Care Board who cannot tell you when last they had a visitor. Ask the members of the board. Some parents never visit, or they visit once or twice in a year when the social workers call them and ask them a question. The people are saying so that we want to get the children in this new bill, take them away from their parents, let the parents do nothing with them so we can do all kinds of nonsense to children. I wouldn't have to change the bill. The children, many of the children who are currently at the Child Care Board are there, sir, without any visits whatsoever from a parent, a guardian, a family member, anybody. The love and support that they know, sir, comes from the members of the board. You telling me that we now have to be put in place a bill to take away children and to take away parents' rights, sir? This is a child care and protection bill. Most of the parents who come into contact with this bill, sir, come into contact with this bill because the children are in need of care and protection. The average Barbadian will never come into contact with this bill. And those who do, sir, do so because it has been deemed appropriate that the children are in need of care and protection. And, sir, when they come into the Child Care Board, they get the necessary assistance, sir, but children need other things. And I encourage, even now, the parents to visit their children who are now resident at the Child Care Board facilities at the FARS, I think it's called Marina Brewster now? The Marina Brewster home at FARS and the Nightingale complex, sir. I think there are about 93 children currently in care. But those children, sir, are also in need of some love, sir. And I've heard, sir, in the conversation, sir, that was being bandied about, sir, that the Child Care Board now wants to take children and perform all kind of random operations on the children. I've seen, sir, a video where somebody was professing to suggest, sir, that we want to perform gender transitioning operations on children. Sir, that's a nonsense. That could never happen, would never happen. It is not in the bill, sir. But it was being bandied about. Because in the definition, sir, where we spoke to children might need to, once the doctor says so, the children might need medical attention, sir. I spoke, sir, lastly spoke to this bill of a child in my constituency, 6 years old, who lives in my constituency. Her mother subsequently had a nervous breakdown because the father saw her body as a sex thing. Chose to have sex with a 6-year-old child. That child carries a scar, I'm telling you, sir, that would break your heart were you to see it, sir. There were cases, sir. The Honourable Senator recently, sir, permit me to say, Reverend Morris, sir, recently reminded me when he served on the child care board, sir, we had cases, you would know, we had cases of children, sir, in the board. Those who were at the child care board for a long time. The current chairman was on the board at the time, actually. Who would tell you, sir, that we had a case, sir, of a child who constantly was throwing up? I want to thank Reverend Morris for reminding me, sir. They felt something was wrong with the child. And when they did their examination, sir, there was a person who was using his own body, sir, sugaring himself, putting sugar and sweetener on himself, allowing the child then to suck on himself, sir. And what we saw being thrown up at the end of the day, sir, was... So there are horrible things happening to children in Barbados, sir. This is not a plaything. And when I watch people march, sir, up and down, it's their right. I have no issue with it. But I want to locate them into the reality of what is happening to some children in Barbados. And at every effort, nonetheless, we have put in place systems, sir, to make sure that we still want to work with the parents. If we can. If we can. But nobody is seeking to take away any rights of parents. But there are some parents who do things that are so egregious, sir, that their rights should really be taken away. And that, sir, would be the persons who come into contact with this bill, sir. And having gone through the various levels of intervention, either one by one, or having examined them, determined, sir, that this is what it has to be, sir. And these things are then done by the court. You still have to go to court. Even where the child care board does an emergency removal, sir, they still have to, within, I think, 24 hours. Within 24 hours, they still have to appeal to the court to get the permission of the court. So nobody is saying that we will come, sir, and like a fly-by-night, random, pick up people's children. It's a nonsense. The court still has to approve. In the cases, sir, where it is not a case where it is an emergency like that, sir, they go to the court. They get the order to be able, sir, to intervene. And I've said, sir, there are a number of interventions, sir, that the bill allows, sir, and I will go through some of them, sir, that the bill allows before you even get to that point. So, sir, what is the content of this legislation? I've examined the content, sir. This is the content. Sir, the bill in the interpretation section, sir, improved on the definitions that were previously available. You'll see a whole lot of definitions, sir, that allows us now greater clarity, greater certainty, sir. We expanded the definition of child abuse to include other things, sir, that the bill in 1904 and 1918 could not possibly contemplate. The bill in 1990, the times are changing so fast, that the bill in 1990, though relevant for its time, talked about things on the phones and stuff, sir. Back then, what cell phone could do in 1990, nobody carries around a 1990 phone. What the internet was capable of in 1990, it is archaic compared to what the internet is capable of now in 2024. So the bill looks at these things, sir. We offer greater definitions, sir. In the purpose of the bill, sir, we were very clear, sir, about the bill not only supports and delineates the act, sir, but it articulates a wide range of matters, sir, that a court shall take into account while upholding the principles of the best interest of the child. In section 3, sir. I mean, it's there for all to see, sir. I went over this bill again last night, sir, because sometimes, sir, it is good to take a pause, you know, as we did when we sent this bill in the wisdom of the government to select committee. Take a pause. Read the bill again. I encourage Barbadians to read the bill. And ask those who are encouraging you, sir, to take some offense against the bill. Where in this bill do you see that thing that you were saying? You're not going to see it, sir, in the bill. You ask those people, sir, who are saying that you should do this and you should do that, sir, because the bill said, where is it in the bill? I went through it again, sir, thoroughly, as I had on numerous occasions, sir. Section 4, sir, articulates the principles. We went through some of those principles before, sir. Sir, section 5, a child in need of care and protection. A child in need of care and protection. Now, the bill says, sir, that these things affect a child who is in need of care and protection. It's not every Barbadian child. So this idea that a child who is at home in a household with his father alone or mother alone or a guardian alone, sir, that any and every child, sir, is now the subject of this bill is a nonsense. The bill says a child in need of care and protection, and at section 5.1, a child in need of care and protection, a child is in need of care and protection where the child does not have a parent, does not have a parent who is fit to exercise care or guardianship, has suffered harm caused by neglect of a child, the failure of a parent, is a victim of abuse or exploitation, sir. The bill goes on. It's very clearly laid out, sir, when a child is in need of care and protection in this bill, sir. So it is not every child. And, I saw a video again, too, talking about, I'm laughing now. This would be comic if it weren't so tragic. If the consequences for Barbadians weren't so severe. A video that was put out, sir, by a group suggesting that, when we adopt this bill, it didn't say when we adopt this bill, it is going to happen, it may happen. It may happen that your child will go to school tomorrow and they will teach your child all these other things, sir, about this and that, none of which is in this bill. This is now these people are hallucinating. These are now things, sir, in their minds. None of that is in the bill. But they're using the child protection bill, sir, as a vessel to speak all kind of negativity over Barbadian children, sir. I reject that in the name of Jesus. They're using the bill, sir, to speak all kind of negativity. This is going to happen and that is going to happen, sir. Not because of this bill, sir. I submit to you, sir, that if we follow what is in the bill, sir, as it relates even to a child in need of care and protection, we put the average Barbadian child in a much better position. Read section 5. I encourage Barbadians, sir, to read section 5 of the bill, sir. Sir, at section 7, we speak of the participatory role of the child. And I have already said, sir, that I think it's important, sir, that children have a say, sir, in the things that affect their lives, sir, the decision-making processes that affect their lives, sir. All of us in here, sir, I believe, sir, when we talk to our children, we get their opinion on things. Well, there can be one rule for the goose and another rule for the gander. That's how it is. We talk to our children, sir. We try to get their opinions, sir. How was your day at school today? What did you learn today? Regular conversations. And from that, sir, you can extract a lot of information. Another thing, sir, that some parents do, sir, some managers do it too, because it's not only children. You have somebody in front of you venting. You're so caught up with yourself, you have no time for the vent. But if you listen, the amount of information that child is conveying to you in that vent, or that employee is conveying to you in that vent, that data is so useful to be able to construct, sir, a response, sir, to help you better cope with whatever it is that the child is dealing with. Children talk, We found, sir, that during COVID, the abuse numbers had gone down. I think at the time the deputy director was acting director. At one point when we spoke, we found that the abuse numbers had gone down. The reported cases of abuse, because the abuses actually probably went up, but the reported cases went down. And the reason, sir, for that is that children were not in school. When children weren't in school, they didn't have the opportunity to tell a friend who would then turn around and tell another friend who might tell the teacher. Or they didn't have a teacher who they trusted the way I trusted, permit me to say, Wendy Griffith Watson. The way, I know every child, every person in this room got a teacher in their heart that they love, sir, that they would tell anything to. There are teachers, sir, who will bring to school, you're only human, you got a favorite in a classroom or two. But there are teachers, sir, for whom children see, who children see, sir, as the examples. And they go and they tell the children. So during COVID, those numbers, the reported cases had gone down. Immediately after COVID, though, when the children were back in school, the numbers went back up, the reported cases, sir. Because children were talking, children will talk. And if we listen, we will hear. And the Prime Minister is always of the view that we must see people, hear people, and feel people. I say to this chamber that we must see children, hear children, feel the children. And that this bill, sir, only seeks to do just that, sir. This is not some major intrusion into the lives of the average Barbadian who is sitting at home. Nobody, I want to let Barbados know, nobody, because of this bill, is going to show up at your house and drag your children out your house. That's not the intention of this bill. It is not written into this bill. But yet it is a narrative that has gone out there, sir, for whatever reason, sir. I am seeking to correct the narrative. I determined, sir, when I was doing this presentation that I would stay far away from politics. Because the issues facing Barbadian children are not BLP issues or DLP issues, they're issues facing children. And no matter the response, my honourable friend, I have determined, sir, that I will keep this one as best as I can above the political fray. Because I feel very genuinely, sir, that across the world, the only way you are able to deal with these things is if you work, sir, in consensus to deal with these things, sir. There is a person who said to me, a child rights person of some note, that Barbados will live on in infamy as the one country that protested a child protection bill. And that did not make me feel good. I reflected again on the bill. I went back to the Minister of Justice. He reflected on the bill. The Cabinet. We sent it back to the Select Committee. Is there things in this bill, sir, that will cause this level of injury to children? We are yet to find it, sir. I then, sir, asked, having gone back, the Child Care Board then came to the Select Committee, sir, as you will see when we get to that point. Made representation again on the bill that they were involved in. Because I said to the PS, there can be no ego in this. If people have an opinion, because the way you feel on a Monday may not necessarily be the way you feel on a Friday. Let them come forward, sir, and give that opinion. We've done that, sir. We have a bill, sir, that I believe, sir, can withstand some scrutiny. Mandatory reporting between sections 24 to 27, sir. I spoke already of those duty bearers, sir. And what it is that we are trying to achieve, sir. Nobody's trying to force anybody to do anything, but you have a responsibility. If you take your phone to a person to be repaired, the person who's repairing your phone sees in the process of going through your phone, because they see what's on your phone, photos of you with a child or photos of somebody with a child, then that person should tell the authorities, because you have to protect the child. If, for example, sir, you have a situation, sir, and we went to BAMP, you have a situation, sir, where a doctor sees a child that he believes is abused, sir, many doctors want to tell in any event. Sir, we put it in the bill, sir. The whole intention of this bill, sir, is so those who know, who have a duty to report, sir, should report. When a day was in my constituency one morning, and then later on in the Pine by the Honourable Member for St. Michael's Southeast, and some young men came to me and they asked me, so now I have to report, if I know somebody troubling a child, you can come and lock me up. No, it's not the average Barbadian. You don't even have to come and report it. You're not a duty bearer. The law does not say you have to do it, but you absolutely should do it. I encourage you to do it. The country requires that you do it. The future of this country, sir, is in the hands of all of us, sir, to be able to protect our children. But you are not forced to do it, but we would want you to do it, if you know. And then what happens, sir, in a case of child abuse, you hear people say he the troubling she for a long time. I know he the troubling she long. Or when a child is really badly brutalized, that mother used to beat he so, or the father used to beat he so for years. But if you know, say something. All we are saying is that we want you to come forward and say something for the love of children, not for the love of any government, for the love of the children, sir. And along the way, every step of the way, read the bill. Every step of the way, we're encouraging the work with parents. Work with parents, sir, to be able to make sure that as these things are happening, sir, parents are involved in almost every aspect of this conversation, sir. Sir, in section 22, the Act delineates, as I said before, where a director may intervene, sir. In section 23, it outlines the considerations necessary where a parent or a guardian has sought the assistance of the authority. It's giving the board work. The child care board can't be silent to parents. You have to go now and deal with the parents. Section 28 mandates the director to conduct an investigation and assessment where there has been a report made or request for assistance, and delineates the wide range of powers and resources on behalf of the authority. Sir, if you read section 28(7), sir, because, you know, I was reading this bill, sir, when I was watching at the first time, and I suspect it may happen again, but when we first brought this bill, there was all these reports, sir, that, you know, the government is trying to do this and the government is trying to do that. Things that are not in the current legislation. In the current legislation, the Child Care Board is not required to do half of the things that the Child Protection is mandated to do under this bill. Subject to subsection 9, the director shall provide a report of the results of an investigation. So this is the bill directly. To the parent, you hear what I tell you? To the parent of the child or any person who is the subject of the investigation. The director ain't gonna do that now. And the child, where he is no less than 12 years old and is capable of understanding the circumstances of the investigation. So you have to talk to the parent and you have to talk to the child. So every step along the way, sir, we are protecting the parents and we are protecting the children, sir. Even in the case of emergency removals at section 31, take a read. And I'm calling this section so that when the public downloads the bill, sir, they can see the bill for themselves. And you know the other thing, sir, that I feel obligated to say now, even at this point, you know, I saw comments that the government somehow is trying to hide the new bill. That we made changes to the bill in the dead of night. We made these changes in the dead of night. Having made the changes, we then sought to hide the bill. I heard this up to about 2 weeks ago. Members of the other side on social media, in the newspaper. Where is the bill? We need to see the bill. The government came to Parliament on February 27th and laid the bill. The bill was on Parliament's website. The report was on Parliament's website for months. I am not in the business of doing the work for anybody. The bill was there. Nobody, we did the examination live, streamed for everybody to see. The bill was laid on February 27th. Today is May 14th. Where is the bill? The bill is on Parliament's website. It has been there for 2 months. People are asking, where is the bill? I don't know, sir. With a modicum of effort, you can find the bill. Or a modicum of understanding, you might understand the process. The bill has always been there. It wasn't the leader of the opposition who was asking, but it was other people on that side. Where is the bill? But the bill was there. He needs to speak to his president. But the bill was there, sir. The bill has been there since February. We laid the bill. And so this idea that we somehow snuck into Parliament, hit a bill, nobody is to comment on it. Then they said we need more consultation after consulting twice. Where is this bill? The bill is there. So for those on that side who don't know where the bill is, go to Parliament's website. You will see a report from the Child Justice, Child Protection Committee. The entire report is there, and the bill is there as it has been for 2 months. They are free to read it, sir. Sir, but even in the cases of emergency removal, sir, we explain, sir, how this thing is done. You still have to go back to the court, sir. We issue now, sir, in terms of the care and protection orders between section 32 to 50. And I want to go through some of these, sir, only because I want the public to understand, sir, that this idea that somehow now we are just trying to come in and take people's children is a nonsense. Between section 32 to 50, sir, we established a plethora of orders, a whole range that the court can now use to determine how they're going to intervene, sir. In section 33, sir, we discussed that relationship with the Child Justice Bill. As I said before, I'll let the Honourable Member for Christchurch East go through that, sir, but that's a major improvement, sir. A major improvement than sending children to the government industrial schools. Sir, at section 36, sir, it dictates that before any court order can be made by the Child Protection Authority, the authority must prepare a written social inquiry report, which must be submitted to the court. You have to prepare a written report and submit it to the court. You just can't get up and go and do your thing. So this idea that the Child Care Board, now the Child Protection Authority, can just come and do as they like, sir. It says very clearly that they have to prepare a report, sir. And then, more importantly, and this is a major improvement, the legislation has specifically curtailed the extent of the treatment period at 3 years when you're in a residential treatment facility, a far cry from what currently exists. Because now it begins at 3 years. The longest time you can be there now is 3 years. Even, sir, in the Child Care Board facilities now, the Child Protection Facility now, they have to, sir, to be reporting, I think, every 90 days. So you just can't come and lost away a child in care. You have to be reporting, I think it says every 90 days, sir, between section 37 to 39, the care order, care plan, and care responsibility, sir. Let the public read it for themselves, sir. Let the public be the judge in this matter. The very application for the order must include a care plan, which outlines the crucial details such as the proposed residential arrangements, the contact arrangements between the child and their family. The contact arrangements between the child and their family. This doesn't exist now. And the services that need to be provided to the child. And that order cannot exceed 3 years, preventing the possibility of a child languishing in the system, or as we say again, lost way in the system, sir. Tell me where this bill, sir, harms children, or where this bill is more injurious to children than that which the current order allows. And if I go through all of them, sir, you will see time after time after time, sir, a number of interventions made, sir, to involve the family and involve the parents, sir, in this work, sir. Section 39 especially reflects the ethos of the convention, sir, and the Barbadian reality, where the best interests of the child can be served by family reunification. Family reunification. Family reunification. All throughout this bill, sir. At every step along the way, sir, things that are in this bill, sir, are not in the current legislation. The architecture now, sir, is a family-oriented legislation. The supervision order, sir, that we are talking about, sir, allows continued child protection, sir, by the authority to allow them to supervise the child while the child is at home. Sir, it is a progressive approach, and again, it fosters what? Family reunification. The whole bill is built around family reunification, with the principle that the family is the primary caregiver for any person, sir. I said so in relation to persons with disabilities. I said so in relation to the elderly. The family. Anybody who's done Sociology 101 would tell you. If it is a functionalist approach, a Marxist approach, a Weberian approach, the family. That is the reality, sir, that is located in this bill, sir. The custody care order, sir, where a permanency plan has been submitted, sir. The plan must include why this action is the best interest of the child. You just can't come and say what you want. And the views of the child and the plans for retention of the relationship with the people who are significant to the child, example, the birth parents. It's in the bill. Custody care order, section 42. I ain't making this up. In fact, all that I have shared with this parliament, sir, is fact. And all that I've heard on the street, sir, is fiction in relation to the government trying to take away people's children. Nonsense, sir. When I've already explained that the current legislation allows the board to go and to in cases where they feel they need to remove children from harm, sir. Sir, we made some consequential amendments, sir, to the bill, sir, and I will not go through those, sir, in the interest of time. But, sir, why is all this important? Let us recall, sir, that children suffer physical, sexual, verbal neglect and abandonment, sir. The cases of abuse that the Child Care Board normally measures on a day-to-day basis. Sir, I must tell you, I must commend the Child Care Board. I have never seen such rich statistics in any organization in my life. And for a man, sir, who loves stats like yourself, it is more satisfying. The Child Care Board has a lot of information. The Child Care Board has the most sophisticated computer system, sir, of all the agencies that we are now seeking to amalgamate. That's a fact. But, sir, why is this important, sir? And why do I seek to do this, sir? We haven't seen a rise in Child Care Board cases since COVID. In fact, it's pretty much gone back to normal. On average, sir, we see about 550, 560 cases reported a year. Between April 2023 to March 2024, sir, there were 27 reported cases of physical abuse, 27 reported cases of sexual abuse, 71 cases of neglect. There were 6 cases of emotional abuse and 0 cases of abandonment, sir. That's 100 and... those were the repeat cases, sir. The total number of cases, sir, there were 107 cases of physical abuse. 107. There were 101 cases of sexual abuse reported, sir. 101 cases of reported sexual abuse. There were 241 cases of neglect, 42 cases of emotional abuse, and 1 case of abandonment, sir. There were 553 cases of reported abuse in Barbados between April 2023 to March 2024. Barbados has to get up and pay attention to this, sir. Of those 553 cases, there were 657 children affected, sir. 657 cases, sir, of children being affected. Now, not all cases turn out to be an abuse case, this is reported. But equally, sir, we can conclude from the evidence brought before us, sir, that not all cases are reported. We know that. And we hope to have greater cases of reported abuse. But there are 553 reported cases between 2023, April to March 2024. And, sir, as I said before, sir, at present, there are 93 children in the Child Care Board. We call them, I think they still refer to them as wards, a title that we need to change with haste and urgency. Sir, what is the course, sir, that we took to get here, sir? Soon coming home. What is the course that we took to get here, sir, in terms of the committee, the consultation, and the conversation that we had, sir? Sir, the Child Protection Bill came to Parliament and was laid in Parliament in February 23. We decided then that we were going to send these cases, sir, most of our transformation cases, sir, because we said it. There's going to be a time, sir, where we have to do mission critical. We said it. You heard it all. There are cases, sir, that are mission critical. We treat ourselves as a war cabinet, constantly at war, apparently. But we treat ourselves as a war cabinet, sir, dealing with the critical issues. And then there are going to be cases where we have issues for transformation. This is a transformative issue. We said we were going to send those cases to joint select committees, sir. We set up a whole range of standing committees to do so. And you're going to see, sir, this bill when I bring later this year the bill for persons with disabilities, when we bring the bill for the elderly, sir, when we bring the bill on the amalgamation, I anticipate that most of these will go to that committee. So that again, sir, this is not us going to committee because somebody has cried out. I heard somebody on the call-in program, and thankfully the moderator was fair. The person called in, sir, and said the minister sent it only after the criticism, and the person said no. I recall that when the minister brought the bill, he said from the beginning that this bill will go to select committee, sir, because it is our standard. And it deepens the democracy, sir. Sir, so the bill went to the Joint Select Committee, sir, was constituted, sir, on May 2nd and May 7th, between myself and the Bill for Child Justice, 2023, sir, with clear terms of reference associated around the purpose of the bill. I'm not going to go through them. But the terms of reference, sir, are listed very clearly, sir, in the bill. In the report that is before the House, I apologize. Sir, permit me to call the members of the Joint Select Committee, sir. As stated in the report, so the Joint Select Committee comprised the following persons. It was chaired by Ms. Toni Moore, JP MP. Senator John King was the deputy chair. Ms. Cynthia Ford, JP MP, was on the committee. Mr. Trevor Prescott, JP MP. The Honourable Corey Lane, JP MP. Senator Reverend Canon Dr. John Rogers, and Senator Dr. the Honourable Charleston Brathwaite, sir, were on the committee, sir. It's not a committee of the Barbados Labour Party government. And I think, sir, anybody looking at this committee, sir, would see it is a fair committee. And even those members who are members of the Barbados Labour Party, sir, if you look at these members, sir, Toni Moore, John King, Cynthia Ford, Trevor Prescott, and Corey Lane are known for speaking their mind. They speak truth to power. Every time. So, sir, this committee, sir, met, sir, and discussed, sir, a number of these things. They held 7 meetings between July 27th and October 6th, with an additional 2 meetings in February, the 16th and the 20th. We invited a number of persons, sir, to participate in the conversation, sir. We'll not go through all, but including the Anglican Diocese of Barbados, BAMP, the Barbados Association of Medical Practitioners, the Barbados Association of Professional Social Workers. Sir, it is in the bill, and if anybody, the report, and if anybody wants to see it, they're free to see it. But it was 27 persons to whom invitations were sent. Sir, there were 13 written submissions. Permit me again to say, sir, so that nobody feels that I'm unfairing them. Mr. Hudson Griffith, the Executive Director of Family Faith Freedom Barbados, Vincent Smith, Ms. Norma Springer, Operation Safe Space, Mr. Cammy Holder, Mr. Victor Hoppin, the Chief Probation Officer, Dr. Veronica Evelyn, the Barbados Council for the Disabled, Mr. Junior Campbell, Ms. Roseanne Richards in her capacity as Director of the Child Care Board, the Barbados Bar Association, and the Democratic Labour Party. So they had a chance, sir, to submit their report, sir, in a written format to the committee, sir. And also, yeah, and we also invited them to appear in person. I'm going to get that shortly. These were the written submissions. So we also took oral submissions, sir, the committee, because I was not on the committee, but the committee also took oral submissions, sir. Sir, in the written submissions, sir, and the report is very clear. Again, it is on Parliament's website for all of Barbados to go and download and read at their leisure. The written report, sir, from Mr. Hudson Griffith, sir, Hudson Innes, sir, having gone before the committee, sir, it was noted, sir, that the primary concern of Mr. Innes, sir, was the concepts of sexual orientation and the gender identity may be incorporated in Barbados due to the Convention on the Rights of the Child. I've just articulated, sir, that it's not in the Convention. I've explained, sir, that the Convention cannot change without a 2/3 majority, and that the government of Barbados can say they wish nothing to do with it, even if there's a 2/3 majority. And even at that point, if it is passed, the government can say they have a reservation. We are not bound by any future thing in the Convention, sir. and that the current convention offers no injury. Mr. Vincent Smith, the basis of his submission was that gender-affirming care is medical abuse, and he proposed that it should not be administered to a person under 18. Sir, I explained already that that is not even in the contemplation of the bill. And sir, the general consensus of the committee was that the legislation did not purport to address Mr. Smith's concerns. Ms. Norma Springer's submission, sir, addressed her concerns with respect to the different definitions of the child and the age of majority within the Child Justice Bill and the Child Care and the Child Protection Bill. She felt that the different ages, sir, could cause some misunderstanding. However, sir, despite the different ages or definitions of the child, it was agreed that there was no conflict between the two bills, sir. This is where we discuss at 12 plus 1, you go to child justice, 12 and under, and you commit an offense, you come to the Child Protection Bill. So there's no conflict. And that is what the committee explained, sir. Operation Safe Space, Ms. Marsha Hines-Murray and Anya Lord, they were generally satisfied with the provision of both bills, and they offered up two major concerns relative to bureaucracy and resources. So that is why we're doing the amalgamation, sir, to address the bureaucracy. And we have to, there's always going to be a case here where governments could do with more resources. But we noted the concern, sir, but more importantly, they had no major concern with the bill. Mr. Cammy Holder, sir, Fathers for Justice, Barbados, his submission, sir, and all this is in the report, it's online. Mr. Holder's submission to the committee was grounded in 10 articles of the United Nations Convention for the Rights of the Child, and it was warranted after the discussion by the committee that it warranted no amendments to the Child Protection Bill or the Child Justice Bill. Mr. Victor Hoppins, sir, his submission with respect to the Child Protection Bill, he was concerned with the time frames in the bill, sir. 3 months, 6 months, in relation to venturing into serious problems, but it was concluded that this was in relation to best practice, sir. And that therefore, sir, it was in line with international norms and the best interests of the child. So far, so good. The Chief Probation Officer, sir, had no issue with the bills, the Child Protection Bill or the Child Justice Bill. Dr. Veronica Evelyn, PhD consultant sociologist, she said she was concerned with the purpose of the bill, the language of the bill, and the lack of definitions of important concepts. After some examination, the committee felt there needed to be more research, and she was invited to come back and make an oral submission, sir. This committee was fair to people. Sir, the Council for the Disabled felt that we should include children with disabilities when we mention the child, and they said that they would address that in the coming regulations, which we will address. Mr. Junior Campbell of Intellect International, in his written submission, the committee agreed that there was really nothing pertinent in relation to the bill. Sir, then there were oral submissions. This is at that point. Oral submissions were made by Dr. Evelyn, the Barbados Bar Association, the Concerns of Family Faith Freedom, the Child Care Board, and the Democratic Labour Party, sir. This is the essence of their concerns, sir. Dr. Evelyn, sir, urged the relevant authorities to revisit the Child Protection Bill, reconceptualize its purpose, review and revise its language, so that the provisions of the bill are consistent with an informed, well-reasoned stance on sexual orientation. Sir, there is nothing in the bill about sexual orientation, nothing. In conclusion, the committee agreed that her concerns were not really concerns that were reflected in the Child Protection Bill because it does not speak to it in this way and that in the way that she had articulated it. The bill does not allow the state to assign gender or the state to make determinations on sexual orientation. See, first, the Bar Association had a number of issues, sir. A lot of it engaged in law. There was some back and forth, sir, with the committee, sir. A lot of the legal concepts were discussed. Some changes were made as a consequence, sir. The concerns of the Family Faith Freedom Barbados were largely addressed by the committee in its written submission. However, it should be noted the Commission, in its consideration of submissions around these issues, found with Clause 3 in the purpose of the bill, it was not contemplated in the elaboration of the bill in terms of what the purpose of the bill was. So the purpose of the bill they felt was clear enough and did not need any changing. They wanted us to change the purpose of the bill in relation to the Convention of the Rights of the Child, which I already explained, sir, on multiple occasions that there was no injury, sir. The Child Care Board dealt with a lot of procedural matters, sir. Extensive discussion around Clause 31, which set out the circumstances where the director of the Child Protective Service may enter and decide to remove a child. So even at that stage, we were still discussing how the director could proceed. And the question was, should the director only be able to allow, or her delegates, only be allowed to act with a police officer or not? And it was felt, sir, that there might be times where you need the officer, and there are times where you don't need the officer. So the law said may and not shall. Then there was the presentation by the Democratic Labour Party. The Democratic Labour Party, sir, was represented by Ms. Felicia Dujon, the third vice president, and Ms. Tyra Trotman, attorney at law and member of the Young Democrats. In the report, sir, it is stated, sir, that Ms. Dujon stated that the DLP had submitted the written submissions and began her presentation. She believed that the language in the Child Protection Bill is ambiguous and needed more clarity, especially in the extreme circumstances where a minor is removed from his or her home. Now, I've explained to you during the course of my presentation what the law says. The law, in my opinion, is very clear, but it's not my opinion that matters. I'm not on the committee. Ms. Sean Bell, the CPC, indicated that Clause 4.1 makes provision that where a child is removed from the home of his parents under this act, whether temporarily or permanently, and she goes through what it says. But then she concludes, sir, it would not be accurate to say that there are no clear parameters that speak to when a child can be removed from his environment. This is CPC, not me. Mr. John goes on to make an argument, sir, in relation to the state determining the best interests of the child. Ms. Bell reiterated, sir, the CPC, that the best interest of the child is also defined, but this bill is a bill meant to attend to children in need of care and protection. This is not me. This is where a child who does not have a parent, the bill is clear, sir. It goes on to explain it, sir. Then she further asked for a holistic view based on the circumstances whereby a child is in need of care and protection. Sir, the CPC then explained how the law works. She said to the representatives of the Democratic Labour Party, after going through a lot of things about the different pieces of parts of legislation, I draw these things to your attention. This is the CPC, not me. So that you appreciate that the bill must be taken as a whole and not in parts, and they work in tandem together. As such, it cannot be asserted that it does not take into account the economic factors, because you said we didn't take into account economic factors, where the bill says very clearly, an investigation, I want you to hear what the bill says, because this is funny. We didn't take into consideration economic factors. As in Clause 28.3, an investigation by a director may include the analysis of the following: medical, health, social, residential, educational, economic, and any other factor relating to the life of the child. So the CPC pointed out this and said you have to read the bill in whole and not in tandem. As such, it cannot be asserted that this does not take into account the economic factors, sir. This is not a bill to deal with general cases of protection of the child. This is a bill dealing with a child who is in need of care and protection, and these things are clearly stipulated in Section 5 of the bill. There are other things, sir, I'm not going to go through all. Ms. Tyra Trotman, sir, she opined in relation to the bill, sir, the long title, sir, and the committee agreed to change the long title in relation to her suggestion. So there were changes made. Sir, that was the process, sir, that we went through. Now, it would not be fair on any given day, sir, to say that we did not give adequate ventilation to these issues. In fact, sir, I could spend the entire day, and I won't, but I could easily spend the entire day going through this report. what was said, what was not said, so on and so forth. At the end of those submissions, sir, the committee then went through the bill clause by clause, so that they could settle for themselves that they had addressed the major issues in the bills, even where persons had missed some of the issues, sir. And sir, I will not go through the changes, but the report, sir, very clearly lays out the amendments to the bill. The report lays out all of the amendments to the bill, sir. As a result of these conversations with the public, as a result of these conversations with the persons who made written and oral submissions, sir. So you can go through, sir, we changed the long title, there was work on the interpretation. Sir, you can go through them all, sir. I know this chamber has already seen the changes, sir, but the essence of what we have addressed, sir, is in the nature of the conversation. We addressed, sir, all of the issues, sir, that were raised. And that this, at the end of the day, is a very serious piece of legislation and must be treated as a very serious piece of legislation. So that even in these amendments, sir, we could read through them, sir. It would be difficult, sir, to go through the amendments in a way that would make sense to a person who is listening, sir. But I asked them to take a look at the amendments and to see that having gone through the process, the committee agreed to make certain amendments when they felt the amendments were necessary, sir. We changed things, sir, like in relation to abuse, we removed the word omission. In relation to verbal abuse, sir, they removed the word silence as abuse. Sir, there are a number of things. The purpose of the bill, sir, the purpose of the act, where persons had concerns about the Convention of the Rights of the Child, sir, we made some adjustments in the structure of the bill so as to give persons the assurance that for us, the highest consideration would be the Barbadian reality. So we made adjustments to that component, sir, so that the Barbadian reality to care and protect for Barbadian children is first. But that we recognize, sir, that when the government of 1990 ratified the Convention of the Rights of the Child in sober judgment, we found no fault in it. And sir, we commit to staying course with that particular convention, sir. So if you go through the bill, sir, and the clauses, sir, there are a number of changes, sir. There are minutes, sir. There's verbatim exchanges between the two, sir. A number of cases, sir, where you can see what the CPC had to say in relation to a number of matters that were raised, sir, by the persons who presented to the committee, sir. And sir, I want to conclude, sir, this part of my presentation, sir, by locating this thing in a wider context. Why are we doing this, sir? Because, as I said before, one might be tempted to believe that somehow we just got up and determined that we wanted to do child protection legislation, sir. One might be tempted to believe, having heard a narrative that was put out there, that this was a rush to satisfy some international foreign objective. This bill, sir, is driven by Barbadian realities for Barbadian children. That is a fact. And sir, as minister responsible for people empowerment for this time, sir, I had the privilege, sir, of coming behind the Honourable Member for St. Thomas, who has started a lot of this work before me. And she, sir, would have seen the file is filled with conversations on child protection between 2008 and 2018. That is true too. This conversation did not begin there. Prior to that, sir, you will find on the file, prior to 2008, conversations on child protection again too. So I'm saying that to say, sir, when I look at the current child protection legislation and what we are offering, sir, I would want the country to be aware that this may be the first bill, but it will not be the only bill that we bring to this parliament to address, sir, issues where there are clear lacunas in the legislation. We see it, sir, in relation to persons with disabilities. That is why we have, sir, settled a policy. We had the Honourable Member for St. James North lead a committee. His committee has reported. It informed the policy. We are now working on the drafting instructions, and we expect to have legislation to address the issues of persons with disabilities, sir, including children. We have found the same thing in relation to the elderly. Clear lacunas in the legislation. You've heard there are a number of cases, sir, where the director of the National Assistance Board, even now, does not have the same authority that the director of the Child Care Board has to protect children. And that we have to strengthen the authority, sir, for the persons responsible for the elderly so as to give them further authority. So I've said before that the changing demographics of Barbadian society make it absolutely necessary for us as the state to change the way that we have been doing business. There were some assumptions made when the architecture of our social services sector was built. We assumed, sir, that the family would be in a position either financially or in an ethical way to look after their elderly and to look after their children. We made certain assumptions. So when I say we, I mean Barbados. Obviously, this is long before my time. But we made that assumption, sir, and so we built a system that was meant to support the family. Now it is my view, my very informed view, that we have to review our systems, and in many cases, the state has to act, not to support the family, but to do what the family traditionally had done while we work to rebuild the Barbadian family. A paper that we wrote years ago, sir, myself, sir, and permit me to say the current director of the Child Care Board, Ms. Roseanne Richards, Mr. Lee Rose, and another young lady, sir, in relation to social capital. And can the government build social capital? I was concerned, this was 2007. Can the state build social capital? In other words, sir, can the state become that agency, that entity that is building the kind of capital that would allow the family to continue to function, sir? What should be the new role of the state? And we discussed it in that paper, sir. What will be the new role of the state? And a lot of the things that you're saying, me discussing here now, are written in that paper. The state must step aside. We must strengthen the NGOs. We must strengthen the CSOs, allow them to do some of this work. That is our view. And then lastly, sir, we discussed that in this current iteration of the government, we must amalgamate the social services sector. And we must do so to be able to offer a total family intervention. A total family intervention. So that instead of you going to a house and dealing with children only, or you go into a house and dealing with the elderly only, you go to the house and you deal with the entire family, sir. It is part of our thinking. So, sir, there is nothing in this bill, sir. This is no rush to judgment. There's no pressure on any government to satisfy any international obligations. This bill was ratified since 1990. That is now what, 34 years ago? 34 years ago. There certainly is no rush, sir. We are not committing ourselves to any future action. I have outlined very clearly for you, sir, what is in the bill, what is the context, what is our thinking, what is our vision as we try to build out, sir. I anticipate that some of the provisions here that strengthen the state must be put in place for the elderly. You will see the state having to have powers to protect the elderly. When something happens to an old person, the first thing you hear is, where is the NAB? What is the government doing? The government is duty-bound to respond, sir. So, sir, as I close, I really want to thank those who worked on this bill, sir, from the beginning. I want to thank, sir, the staff of the Child Care Board again. I feel the need to thank the entire staff and the management, the board. I want to thank the staff in the ministry. I have to thank the CPC's office, obviously, because the CPC did a lot of work to get us here, no doubt. I want to thank the CPC's office for the work that was done. Sir, we had some consultants in, permit me to say, Jacqueline Seeley-Burke, Faith Marshall-Harris, who was outstanding in her support for this bill, sir. And Faith, I watched Faith subject herself to public ridicule, sir, in a bill, sir, that she was working on before this government. I came and found Faith Marshall-Harris working on the bill. I want to thank Sophia Moore, a young lawyer, sir, who was also working on the bill. And any other person, sir, who worked on the bill. I want to thank UNICEF, Ms. Heather Stewart in particular, who gave us some guidance and gave us some support. I anticipate that in the next few months, sir, this bill comes in to existence by proclamation. So just to settle that, sir, we will come back. But so that the public will know when exactly we are bringing this bill into existence. But I want to thank all of those persons, sir, many of whom were laboring in this vineyard long before me. This is not a work for the Barbados Labour Party. This is a work on behalf of children, done by people who have at their core and in their hearts desire a simple wish to see children's lives made better in Barbados, sir. We have chosen at this time to correct a wrong where legislation is 120 years old, where the current legislation does not allow the proper kind of intervention, where the officers need certainty in the administering of their duties, sir. That is what we have chosen to do, sir. I again close by asking all Barbadians to take a look at the bill. Go online, read the report. And I convey my deepest and most honest hopes, sir, and sentiment that having done so, Barbadians will feel, as I feel, that the child protection bill that is before this House will serve only to protect and to empower the children of Barbados, sir. And with those few words, sir, I want to recommend this resolution and this report to this honorable chamber. I thank you, sir.
Honourable Member for Christchurch South. Member for Christchurch South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. Good afternoon. Welcome back. We missed you last week. I must confess, Your Honor, to a certain surreptitious amusement as the Honourable Member for St. Michael South spoke. He spoke as if he was pleading the case of an innocent man. And innocent men do have a different way of pleading their cases. And I believe he is an innocent man. And if the Honourable Member is the one responsible for referring the child protection legislation to a committee, I think he must be commended. Equal commendation, though, would not go to an entire government that finds itself once again being forced to refer very important legislation to another place, having fully debated it in this place. Yet, I commend the Honourable Member for St. Michael South. His entire speech, his entire presentation was characterized by that plea of innocence. I intend well, I meant well. What are they complaining about? And the Honourable Member did end by reminding us that whatever was complained about was referred to that committee, and that committee took presentations from the public, and the content of those presentations forced government to alter the legislation, so that if all of this has been the initiative of the Honourable Member for St. Michael South, he is deserving of much commendation. And as I've said before, it is not the kind of commendation that I would reserve for those who brought it here in the first place with all the admitted imperfections. So permit me, Your Honor, to come to the legislation itself and to do what the member for St. Michael South would want us to do. He being a social scientist of some merit, he would want us to look at the place of the child in society. And when one examines the place of the child in society, the word that comes to us immediately is the word vulnerable. We know that children present as being mentally, physically, and emotionally weaker than the adults around them. And if an important part of humanity is going to be naturally vulnerable, we as adults will wish to protect them. And so we meet their vulnerable condition, their vulnerable state, with the instinct to protect children. And in protecting children, how do we go about that? Historically, in Barbados, we have not tended to accord, or we have not recognized the concept of children's rights. We know this. Children have not been seen as people with rights. Children have always been seen as a subordinate part of humanity. And when we pay them attention, that attention, in the best of cases, is intended to protect them. But of course, we sometimes have very perverse notions of what is protection. And in Barbados, in most of our institutions, we have interpreted protection as giving us a right to punish. All of us in this chamber came through a school system in which punishment was central to the academic exercise. In the home, the relationship between the parent and the child was often characterized by punishment. And we never thought of rights in relation to children. We thought of protection, but we had some perverse notion as to how that protection was to have been constituted. And we constituted that protection by the practice of punishment. We often punish children to remind them of our right, certainly our moral right in relation to them, our duty. The duty was to punish a child. And we even distorted the language. You hear adults saying, man, you got to discipline the child, without recognizing that even the word discipline derives from the Latin word discipulus, I think, which means to learn. And if you're going to be learning, if the child is going to be learning, our corresponding duty is to teach the child. So that I'd like to say to those persons in education who distort the meaning of the word discipline to mean punishment, please, they should not do that. When you discipline a child, you're teaching the child. It is part of the process of education. It is part of the process of the child's development. And so we've had in this country, and I think we need to look at it sociologically and historically. We've had in this country a situation in which a child exists in a society and there is some confusion as to the roles of those two persons they call parents, or that they should call parents, those gender roles. We all know that these societies and this Barbadian society has been a patriarchal society, a society dominated by men in every conceivable way except family life, which has been matrifocal. So we've had that dichotomy of roles as between men and women. Men have tended to dominate the society and its institutions. We call that patriarchy, and the family has tended to be female-centered, has been subject to female leadership. The word we use is matrifocal. And while the child has looked on at that dichotomy of roles, that child has then been subject to laws made by men. I begin, Your Honor, by reminding you that it was around 1893 in England, where an English judge said, very interesting dictum in law. A judge in England said, he ruled, men no longer have the right to chastise their wives. It used to be the law in England that men had the right to beat their wives, to punish them, to lash them, to flog them. And I think it was, I'm not sure, sir, but I think it was the case, the Crown against Jackson. The judge finally decided, he told the men in England and therefore Barbados, because all of us who listen to these things will know that we were receiving our laws from England, and therefore men in Barbados were subject to that law as well. When that judge in England said men no longer have the right to chastise, to flog, to whip their wives, that law extended to the Caribbean and it extended to Barbados. Of course, that was the law that was laid down. But attitudes and value systems survived that ruling in law because men continue to beat their wives. Men continue to chastise their wives. Yes, men continue to chastise their wives as if it were a right. Although the learned judge in England said you no longer have the right, but it was a right. And when I describe the society as a patriarchal society, that is evidence of the patriarchy that characterized English society and certainly these societies, that men did have the right in law to chastise their wives. But that is the relationship between men and their women. That was the historical relationship between the men and their women. It extended to children because although that law was pronounced, men and women who were parents still had the right to chastise their children, to beat their children. And it extended into the schools. And perhaps you will hear some of the older retired police officers telling you that the station sergeant at the station office used to flog children as well. They were found on the street and they brought them into the station. There was some misdemeanor, and rather than charge them and give them a criminal record, they used to flog them and send them back home. I've never seen it, but I am told that in old Barbados that used to happen. But the point is, this relationship between adults and children was characterized in this country by punishment. And that is the history of a child's relationship with the adults around it. The child lived, in many cases, constantly in fear of chastisement and constantly in fear of physical punishment, physical abuse, violence even. Violence tended to regulate the relationship between adults and children. So that I say to the Honourable Minister, through you, sir, for St. Michael's South, that any law that attempts to reverse that unjust relationship between an adult population and its children is a good initiative. We can't come to this place and pretend that the children of this society have been always well treated by the value system. Of course, the value system treated them well in many ways, in terms of exposure to, and this is a personal bias, exposure to religious values and to moral values. But apart from that, at the center, running somewhere along the center of the relationship, was this propensity or this belief that we had a right to punish children, to lash them, to flog them, and sometimes to inflict injury on them so that the child carries that injury for his life. And later in life, he may point at it and say, boy, you know, this lash that I got with the tamarind rod in 1960-something, it has served me well. And you find Barbadians saying that. Marks of physical violence, they speak of those marks as if they're badges of honor. And that is not right. So I want to say to the minister, through you, sir, that any effort to reverse that relationship in which the child is made to perceive that punishment is central and that punishment is justified and that violent punishment is justified, I commend any effort, any legislation that reverses that. And I commend any legislation that intends to focus on protection and not punishment. And that is my position in relation to the legislation generally. If it intends to protect, no rational person will oppose it. What I do know is that it went to committee, and several interest groups, including the Democratic Labour Party, made submissions, and we are pleased today that those submissions resulted in the changes, if we wish to call them, the amendments made to the legislation. So I do commend the minister, and as I said, sometimes there was a certain amused desperation. He was there saying, but I am not at fault. Why all of this? Why this furor? Minister, we accept that you're not at fault, and that you did the right thing in sending it off so that the public could engage, and the public did engage, and here we are today, being pleased that the public has been able to force your government, minister, to do what they felt ought to have been done. But I want to say this in all seriousness, that when a parliament finds that there is much opposition to a lot of the legislation that is coming out of the parliament, when a government finds that this is happening, I've said this before and I'll say it again as a caution to the government. I'm not here to support the government, and I won't, and I will not, and I must not, and I cannot. So that when a government finds that there is repeated opposition to its legislation, sometimes the government needs to look beyond the content of the legislation and to look at the nature of the relationship between the government and its people. And I am wondering, I caution this government, that it is steadily losing the trust of the people of this country. And so, while the Honourable Minister speaks with a certain innocent desperation, I want to visit him with the news that it may not be his work so much as that it is a declining relationship, or a relationship that is degenerating to one of mistrust. The people of this country are having a difficult time finding their trust in this government. And certainly if this legislation is to manifest that point, I will point to a few aspects, or I will point to a few incidents that have occurred in this country over the last year or two to support my proposition that there is a declining relationship between the government and the people. I want to quote the Honourable Member for St. Michael South. As I said last week in your absence, sir, and I say again today, I take very good notes when I come in here. I do not come in here to sleep. And I don't sleep. I quote, "They are using the bill as a vessel to speak all kinds of negativity." A few minutes ago, those words were uttered by the good and honourable member for St. Michael's South. I quote him again, "They are using the bill as a vessel to speak all kinds of negativity." I wonder if that is not a version, a variant of what I have submitted a few minutes ago. I wonder if the Honourable Minister is not saying that it is not so much the bill that is causing the problem, except that it is being used as a vessel to express negativity towards the government. I wonder if we are not saying the same thing. And if we are saying the same thing, I will quote him again. I will quote the Honourable Minister again when he admitted, and I quote again, we made consequential amendments to the bill, but I would not go through them in the interest of time. And so here's the Honourable Member for St. Michael South admitting to this chamber, to this parliament, to this country, that he wonders at what is the source or the motivation for the public opposition, and whether the bill is not the vessel for something else. I know he's not going to agree with me that that something else is a lack of trust. But, Your Honor, that becomes my thesis, and it becomes my thesis not based on theory, but based on what is happening in this country. And I'm going to point now to a few incidents that have visited this government and that this government has visited on the people of this country. Those incidents having undermined public trust in the government in spite of the virtue in this child protection bill. I heard the minister say, and look, I speak honestly, and in a plea of innocence, he said that we could become, I don't think he used the word laughing stock. Perhaps he did. He didn't. But he did lament the specter of this being the only country that does not pass similar legislation. And I speak honestly. There are other countries who have passed similar legislation. And therefore, any legislation or good legislation that pertains the protection of children must be supported. I speak honestly in here today, as I always do. But I come to the element of the loss of trust between the people and the government. Now, it is fine to pass this legislation. But here you are passing this legislation in the context of an IDB survey. Now, I don't know if the government believes that the people of Barbados have short memories. I don't know if the government believes that. And I know that every minister in this government and every backbencher in this government knows that when they approach the people of Barbados with candor and hear the people of Barbados speak with candor, in spite of the virtues of legislation, they will be asked the question, why did this IDB survey find itself in the lives of young children in this country without the knowledge of their parents? Why were the children of this country assaulted by a survey which made inquiry of them when that inquiry was a breach of their fundamental legal and moral rights to privacy? Why were the minds of the children of this country assaulted and invaded by an administration in a survey conducted behind the backs of their parents when that survey made inquiry that was not only offensive but unconstitutional, and not only offensive and unconstitutional but deeply immoral? And if the government expects that the people of this country will display some amnesia in relation to that recent event, I want to remind the government that that event is fresh in the minds of the people of this country. It should not have happened, and I say to the government, it must never happen again. We are here, my theme is that we are here not to punish our children, we are here to protect our children. And if that incident contributes to the lack of trust between the people of this country and this government, then the least the government can do is to offer apology. That is the least the government can do. But if an apology is not enough, perhaps the parents of those children may wish to resolve it elsewhere. So that is only the IDB survey that has served to undermine trust between the government and the people of this country. We come again in relation to children, the vacillation and indecision in relation to an exam taken by 11-year-old children. That for the last 2, 3, 4 years, 2, 3, 4 years, parents, teachers, and children in this country have been told that that exam, whatever we think are its merits or demerits, the government the government had a moral duty to have been more resolute in any decision it has taken to remove that exam. That exam visits a lot of people with trauma. I would admit most of the trauma occurs among the parents, because a lot of the children visit that exam with a certain calm. They prepare. Those who have the aptitude prepare, and they sail through the thing. But we as parents, we tend to be more anxious, and we visit that anxiety on the children. But the point needs to be made that it is a significant occasion in the life of a child, and it becomes morally irresponsible and morally reprehensible for a government to issue statements year after year promising the children and teachers and parents, this year will be the last year. A government has awesome power. When a government speaks, it does not speak without some awesome power. And if that power is exercised to speak of plans, of future plans, the people of this country, and certainly the children of this country, are entitled to rely, to depend on what the government has said. It isn't because it relates to children that you can treat it as some trifle. Children are an important part of humanity. And if you promise to discontinue an exam, you either do it or you leave it alone. But every year there's this dithering and this vacillation and this indecision in relation to a significant event in the life of a child. And this government has been irresponsible over the last 2-3 years when it has been unable to tell the children of this country what is government's position in relation to that 11 plus exam. I say, it is my contention, Your Honor, that vacillation has represented a breach of government's responsibility, not only to the parents, but to the children of this country. And it is not only the exam. It is not only the exam, but it is the curriculum. Because the people of this country and the children of this country were told that there was going to be a brand new curriculum, and that there was going to be a brand new system, and that there was going to be a brand new invention called middle school. Not a brand new invention. Other countries rejected it. And we were around here proposing it. And other countries rejected it because it failed. It failed those countries. It failed the children in those countries. And yet we were around here visiting those ideas on our children. That, Your Honor, contributed to the distrust that must necessarily exist between a government and its people. So, Minister, through you, sir, Minister, I understand. I've worked in the courts long enough to be able to perceive the plea of an innocent man. And I heard your plea this morning, and as I say, there was a certain surreptitious amusement as you thread your way, you crawled your way, you pleaded your way through 2 hours of a good speech. Pleaded your way. But I was amused that you expressed your innocence in the context of larger guilt. Now, I was speaking about the situation in the schools of this country. And that indecision has led to uncertainty within the schools. Ask any parent in Barbados now. Ask any teacher within the primary system what plans they are making for their children in relation to those past exams. I know it, I went through it. Handing their children the past papers, making plans. Will it be public school? Will it be private school? Will we discuss futures? Will we discuss vocations and professions? What will we do? We don't know what we will do because like this legislation, like the journey of this legislation, like the passage of this legislation, there has been indiscipline. Not indiscipline, indecision, I beg your pardon. There has been indecision. I beg your pardon, sir. And so, nobody in this country now is able to make definite plans in relation to their children. Because an important part of a child's development in this country, within this value system, is education. We focus on nothing as being more important in this country than the education of our children. And the government has abused education in this country by its indecision, by its vacillation, by its dithering in relation to primary education, in relation to a significant exam, and in relation to secondary education and its curriculum, which this government threatened to change and to change fundamentally. And that is not right. That is not good. That is not a good thing to do to children. But if we thought that that had been the worst thing, we came to Government Hill a few months ago. And all of this I'm saying has undermined the trust that ought to exist between a government and its polity. And that one day, a group of men were up there brandishing, I don't know if they were false weapons or real weapons. Certainly, if they had cutlasses, well, they were real. The Springer School incident is the administration of this country now expecting amnesia in relation to that event. And the public asks legitimate questions. Why they chose Springer? That's a valid question. And the corollary of that, having chosen Springer, why did they not choose another school? So the stereotypes begin to dominate the conversation. As I've said before, perhaps the girls at Springer fit in with our concept of victimhood. These are the victims. These are the people
Excuse me,
who...
sir, on the
beg
point
your
of
pardon.
order. I really
Honourable
would
James
not
Law.
like the honourable member to spread to this nation that somebody sat and selected a school.
I'm sorry, your
If
thing
he
is
had
on? I'm not
reviewed-
hearing you.
Having reviewed the newspapers, it was obvious that this was an exercise chosen by the leadership at Springer School and not the ministry, just for his information, so that he does not spread untruths.
Continue, Honourable. Continue, Honourable.
Your Honor, you would have heard me use the word the administration. I did not say the government. The administration, which is working under this government in a government secondary school.
On a point of order,
Honourable St.
he
James Law.
asked the question, why was Springer School selected? Whether or not the children, the girls, represent some type of victimhood, therefore suggesting that someone outside of the school actually made the selection. And I would like the honourable member, please, to live up to the claim that he is making for integrity and honesty. And if he is, he will correct the statement that he is now making. It is unacceptable, Mr. Speaker.
I'm obliged to you, Your
Continue,
Honor.
Honourable.
So the honourable member has a difficulty with my question, why was Springer chosen? I think that is where the difficulty lies. If the honourable member is saying that I am saying by inference who made the choice, I have not said that. I am merely asking the broad question, why was Springer chosen? If the honorable member for St. James South knows who chose Springer, she will tell us. I don't know who made the choice, but the choice was
On
made.
a point of order, Mr. Speaker,
Honourable
I was
St. James,
extremely clear that the choice was made by the leadership of the school. And that was in the newspaper for his benefit. It was on the news for his benefit. It was in the report by the Chief Education Officer. And therefore, he has no excuse for coming into this chamber and misleading himself and the public. Unacceptable.
Well, I am grateful for the information given that the school, I think the honorable member is telling us that the school made the choice. The government school. I am not here to attack anybody in this chamber for having chosen Springer. I asked, why was Springer chosen? And whether it was chosen by somebody in Springer School, and I don't come in here and attack people who are not in here. So whether the choice, if the honorable member for St. James South wants to distance the government from the transaction, say that and do that. But don't by inference use your privilege in here to come and say that government had nothing to do with the transaction, with the choice made, that it was somebody in the school. Please don't do that. Please don't absolve yourself as a government minister of any responsibility by pointing to the administration in the school. If it were the administration in the school, you tell us. You tell us. And if you think that is important, tell us that as well. But I am saying that a choice was made, whether internally or externally. You now tell us it was made internally. My broad question was, why was Springer chosen? Why was Springer chosen? That is my broad question. And it does not matter whether that choice was made internally or externally. I am positing again that those girls were stereotyped as natural candidates for victimhood.
On a point of order.
Yes, Honourable Member St. James South.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, I'm listening.
we as representatives in this chamber are here to do what is in the best interest of our children and of our country. And to suggest that a decision was made because we viewed our girls as victims and therefore they could be visited with whatever is untrue, and it is unacceptable given the fact that it was a decision made internally. It was not because the children were victims, it was helping to prepare them for in case we ever had an emergency situation. That was all. And therefore the honourable member cannot and must not seek to put in the public space whether or not these children were chosen for victimhood, whether by internal or external sources. My contention is there is no choice based on victimhood. No evidence is brought, none.
Honourable Gracious.
I'm obliged to you, sir. Part of debate involves the right to express opinions. And if the honourable member seeks to deprive me of the right to opine, I would say through you, sir, to that honourable member that she seeks to deprive me of a substantial part of public discourse in this place. I have the right to an opinion. As does the honourable member also have a right to express an opinion, and I will not seek to deprive her of that right. She is entitled, the honourable member is entitled to express an opinion. The honourable member is entitled to say why The exercise was decided upon. The honourable member is entitled to say that, and if she has an opinion, let her express it, while not at the same time depriving me of my right to express an opinion. And I want to remind the honourable member of this, that the event and the interpretation of the event has not met with public approval in any part of Barbados. There can be no excuse made for the occurrence of that event. There can be no excuse made, certainly in terms of distancing the government from it, and there can be no excuse made for the fact that it took place. No excuse. The people of this country expressed revulsion that it took place, and no amount of fancy speeches can amount to forgiveness for that event. The Springer School incident has been a blot on education in this country. It has been a blot. And if the honourable member wishes to in some way sanitize it and deodorize it, it is too late for that. It occurred, and it occurred to widespread public disapproval. And I am saying in here today that that incident has contributed to the declining relationship of trust between the people and this government. The government got some blame for it, not because the government was actively participant, but the government sits in the position as government. And if the honourable member doesn't understand that, I'm sorry. I beg you, sir, to press on. I said it has been a blot. Another blot on the relationship between children and the state. I'm choosing my words carefully. The state. And I believe the honourable member for St. James South has been a student in political science, and she understands the difference between the state and the government. Some months ago in this country, a group of young children were deprived the opportunity to participate in an event, which is a significant event in the calendar of the lives of young children in this country, when they were disqualified from participation in a national artistic competition simply because they were exercising their right of freedom of expression and freedom of conscience within the context of their group being a religious group. And the National Cultural Foundation, as an agency of the state, denied them. And I'm not going to be apologetic about this. They were denied the right to freedom of conscience and the right to freedom of expression simply because a group of persons decided that what they were saying was an opinion not validly expressed. An opinion, an artistic opinion within the context of freedom of speech was denied to them. And that also has contributed to a declining relationship of trust between the government and its people. And if we think it can not get worse, it does get worse. It does get worse. I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say it now. That too many events across this country are involving children. Events that should be exclusive to adults. We are in the context of child protection legislation today. And you can see videos of little children being invited on stages of entertainment. And the word entertainment must now be used quite liberally. That's not entertainment. That is child abuse. People in this country have the videos on their phone of a 13-year-old girl being instructed by, I don't know, an artist, entertainer, whatever. And I think they call it giving instructions. And the little child is down on the floor of the stage. And this gentleman is over her and he's giving instructions and telling her what to do and how to do. That, some of us see the videos of the underground. And I don't think anybody is attempting to pass rules for the underground. What occurs on the boats or in the CD nightclubs and so on, let it stay there. The children don't go there. But do not export the habits of the underground into public spaces occupied by children. And the state, and in saying the state, I will include the government, has a responsibility to the children of this country to protect them against lewd behavior in open and public places at events of festivity. That, Mr. Speaker, is happening in your country in broad daylight, under bright sunlight. And I don't want to say who is the sponsor of these events. I don't want to say that. But it offends several people in this country. You don't have to be you don't have to be any ardent churchgoer or any devout Christian to be offended by these things. That is not Barbados. That is not who we are. That is not the expectation we have of our young children. And worse, that is not the expectation that we hold of our adults, even young adults, dragging children into this moral cesspit, into a moral cesspit, when in public places at high noon, our children are being encouraged in the most vulgar and lewd kind of behavior. You never saw it in the 60s, sir. You never saw it in the 70s. You never saw it in the 80s. What is wrong with us in 2024 when we are now abusing our children in public places under the guise of something called entertainment and festivity? It is not entertainment, neither is it festive. It is a cesspit of moral decay that is visiting this country, and we are involving children in it. And I will say we broadly, because I don't want to call names in here today. Because if I call names, I know the noises will erupt, so I want them to keep quiet. I am on the theme of the declining relationship between the government and its people. A few weeks ago, I made reference to government's dereliction of its duty in relation to its obligation to fix the Sexual Offences Act. And I did not give particular details. And when I said that, the Honourable Attorney General of this country thought that the only response fit and due to my protestation was to accuse me of falling afoul, or not falling afoul, or falling within the 7 cardinal sins. And I sat here and I heard it said that I have committed 5 of the 7 cardinal sins simply because I asked the Attorney General of this country, and I'm not afraid to do it again, and I will do it again today. I am asking the Attorney General of this country to pay some attention to the Sexual Offences Act, and so that my colleagues understand how serious I am about this. I am saying this to a speaker who knows full well the content. It has to be done. I am not asked, this is no personal attack on the Attorney General. I don't wish the Attorney General to take any personal offense. We are here today, sir, seeking to defend and protect the rights to the interests and the entitlements of children in this country. And if it has been done, I apologize to him. If it is about to be done, I ask him to hasten. And not hasten slowly, but hasten. Your Honor, there's a case called Holder McLean Ramirez and others versus the Attorney General of Barbados. You know the case well. And this is for you and not the others. It is reported in the Caribbean Law Reports. That is a case that came before the court, the High Court of this country, and it was a case dealing primarily with homosexual rights. That is what the case was dealing with, homosexual rights. But in the resolution of that case, the rights of children were swept up. The court ruled that Section 12 of the Sexual Offences Act was unconstitutional. Section 12 of the Sexual Offences Act read as follows. Permit me, sir.
Cap 154, sir?
Beg your
The cap is cap 154.
Cap 154. You know the law. I am so happy when you're there. Not that I'm unhappy when you're not.
You are speaking to the armed member for St. Thomas, sir?
I'm speaking to
I was
you.
just checking.
I'm looking at her.
No, I was just checking if you were speaking to the armed member for
no.
St. Thomas. I thought you made reference to her, I remember.
No.
I thought you were making reference to her.
You know,
Whether Ghibli or not, I just thought that you were.
you will
making
forgive
reference.
me if I say that she's better looking than you.
I know that part already.
So that if I am attracted across the
I don't think it's reciprocity from her, though, you know, I remember.
you mean to you, sir?
Not to you, sir. To you, I remember. I don't think there's a reciprocal relationship between yourself and your armed member for St. Thomas.
I don't fall into sexist statements, but she is a very beautiful lady. Extremely beautiful lady. Beg your pardon? No, you're very beautiful. I think that can keep you quiet, but it is true.
Continue, I remember.
Now, the Sexual Offences Act, Section 12, and I'm glad the Attorney General is present, and I don't want him to treat this as any hostility. I want to help the children of this country, and I want the Attorney General to help himself to help the children of this country. And I want the Attorney General to delay this matter no longer. To delay a matter in which the High Court has ruled that Section 12 of the Sexual Offences Act is unconstitutional, and it is a decision which can be defended in law. The judge was not wrong. The judge found that there was a technicality, and the striking down of this offense, which meant to protect children, was necessary. And what is also necessary is that this government must amend the Sexual Offences Act so that children are protected from sexual predators. There's an offense called gross indecency which can be committed against a child, and the penalty for that offense was 15 years. So serious was that felonious infraction against the law. And therefore, how many months later? 6 months later, this legal system cannot tolerate a lacuna in the law 6 months later. So if I'm guilty of 5 of the 7 cardinal sins, so be it. But that does not alter the responsibility of this government. I'm not going to say the Attorney General any longer, because he has a minister who is responsible for children's rights. And so I'm going to ask the entire government to join in this plea for the Attorney General to correct this. It is a situation that becomes untenable. I was about, Your Honor, to read Section 12, subsection 2. A person who commits an act of serious indecency with or towards a child under the age of 16 or incites the child under that age to such an act with him or another is guilty of an offense and is liable on conviction to imprisonment for a term of 15 years. I lowered my voice into sobriety because it is not a matter for political rancor. We came here today, sir, under a promise from the Honourable Member for St. Michael South that sometimes these matters need to be elevated beyond partisan borders, and that when we are talking about the rights of children, we abandon partisan rancor and partisan debate, and we speak for the children. That part of humanity previously thought to be subordinate and without rights and without a voice. And Section 12 of the Sexual Offences Act was intended, I beg your pardon, to offer protection to children against predators. And the offense was called gross indecency. And the High Court was forced in its correct application of the law to remove that from the statute. And with that removal was an expectation that the government would hastily correct it, not for the sake of the government, but for the sake of children in this country. And the irony is that we come here today talking about children's protection, and there's this vast lacuna, this vast hole in the Sexual Offences Act of this country that exposes children, and that a Director of Public Prosecutions is unable to use Section 12 to prosecute persons who sexually assault by acts of gross indecency children. And I asked many weeks ago, and I repeat my plea to this government to hastily correct Section 12 of the Sexual Offences Act, Chapter 154 of the Laws of Barbados, not in pursuit, as the Honourable Member for St. Michael South says, not in pursuit of political expeditions, but in pursuit of the rights and entitlements and interests of children in this country. And I will tell you what the learned judge said in that case. Because we often rush to a condemnation of judicial officers because they don't have a political voice, and very seldom do they have a social voice. Judges are cloistered within that environment, and they often have no voice. And the only voice that they often have is contained in the law reports. Well, I owe it to this chamber to repeat what the High Court said as a justification for striking down that law, because the public is likely to mislead itself into saying, or into asking, how could the High Court strike down a law that was so fundamentally in protection of a child against a sexual predator? Here is how the judge validly explained it. Permit me to read it, sir. It's very short. And she did that at paragraph 194 of page 160 of the West Indian Reports, 102. That's the 102nd volume of the West Indian Reports. This case is so important, it has found its way into the West Indian Reports. I quote, "After careful review, the court is therefore constrained to find that the definition subsection of section 12," and this is describing the legislation that sought to protect the child against a sexual predator. And she said, "Section 12 is itself vague and uncertain. The words are unclear and ambiguous. And the lack of clarity and ambiguity, and that lack of clarity and ambiguity is at the root of why the claimants are before the court. I am therefore satisfied that no part of Section 12 can be saved." Unquote. What I am constrained to explain is that Section 12 of the legislation contained other offenses, and the High Court felt and knew and correctly did so that if it struck down one subsection, it had to strike down the other subsection. All of those offenses were placed into one section. And all that this government needs to do in protection of the child is to simply rewrite it. As the High Court said, it was vague, it was ambiguous, and it was uncertain. That is not a task that is beyond this government. That is certainly not a task that is beyond this Attorney General. If I come here today to express my views as to the need to protect children, I cannot leave this untouched. I cannot attend any debate that relates to the rights, the interests, and the entitlements of a child while this matter remains unattended by this government. And that is not personal. So whether I've committed 5 of the 7 cardinal sins, it does not matter. Whenever I come here and any matter relating to children comes up, I am going to refer to this. And if this Attorney General has fixed it, I apologize to him. And if he has not fixed it, I ask him today to fix it, and to fix it quickly. Because this renders invalid any thrust of this government to claim protection of children. We will not complete the protection of children unless we fix the law that pertains to their right not to be abused sexually by the adults that prey upon them. And that is a grievous hole in the law. And this was last year, 2023. And we're approaching the middle of 2024. Are our children so important to us? Or on the contrary, are they of so little importance to us that we in our cocoons of comfort will neglect to protect them? I've heard the Honourable Member for St. Michael South saying here on a previous occasion, and say in the wider public domain on previous occasions, that the incidents of sexual abuse against children in this country cannot be tolerated. And the Honourable Member is able to report on statistics. Statistics pertain to reports made. That Honourable Member will admit to you that there are reports not made. That Honourable Member will confess to you the possibility that many, many children in this country are sexually abused and suffer all types of abuse, forced hunger. If you have tears, prepare to shed them now. Forced hunger, sometimes at the hands of parents who are themselves mentally defective. And we can come in here and contend on technical issues when the most vulnerable portions of humanity are suffering serious abuse. And we in these cocoons of comfort can philosophize and theorize and sound good. And the harsh reality is that too many of our children out there, not far from us in this 166 square miles, are suffering every day and every night because of social and economic conditions sometimes. But some all do not suffer due to social and economic conditions. Others suffer because of wickedness that obtains in the hearts and the minds and the hands of persons who are in close proximity to them, relatives and friends. And it is the hidden reality that visits the lives of too many children in this country. And this is no moment, as the Honourable Member for St. Michael South said, for us to find that this makes good politics. It doesn't make good politics. It makes bad for an entire society. When it finds that it loses the chance, the opportunity to protect not its children, to protect our children. Because there's a sense in which all the children are our children. And if we are adults who wish to claim moral and legal responsibility for the lives of children, whether it is through progressive legislation, whether it is through our institutions, the school, the church, the cricket club, the football club, by whatever means, the adult population of this country must make a resolution to protect the children of this country. And all a parliament can do is to pass law. And all we can do sometimes is to commend the parliament for passing that law. And all we can do sometimes is to, if the public objects to the law, do what has been done here. This is not about scoring political points. I join with the Honourable Minister when he says, this is not an occasion for partisan debate. This is an occasion to rescue the vulnerable. Your Honour, I'm obliged to you.
Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the suspension of the House until 3 p.m.
Question is that this honourable chairman be suspended until 3 p.m. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This honourable chairman stands suspended until 3 p.m.